As the old saying goes, your life flashes before your eyes in your final moments. Our story begins with a poignant scene, our protagonist's father lying on his deathbed. With his last breaths, the father implored Shui to care for his mother and sister, a memory swiftly followed by an image of his own mother offering him a childhood snack. His mother then spoke of a new job, urging him to concentrate on his studies. Later, he saw his little sister, lollipop in hand, as he gently advised her to always obey their mother. The serene memories shattered, cutting to a schoolyard where a bully cruelly stomped on his snack. The bully then sneered, questioning why the young man even bothered showing his face at school, while his cohorts held a girl captive. The aggressor screamed at our protagonist, proclaiming him too weak to ever be a hero. The girl he had tried to protect, surprisingly, told him he shouldn't have hurt the bullies, urging him instead to look out only for himself. In that crucial moment of distraction, a speeding truck bore down on him, its horn blaring a deafening warning. He stood frozen, unable to comprehend the terror as the massive vehicle rushed closer. An instant later, his umbrella was snatched away and a chilling thought echoed, "Is this truly my end?" Lying on the cold ground, a crimson pool spreading beneath him, the boy knew his life was truly over. In his final moments, his thoughts drifted to his mother and his sister Isusa as a mysterious light began to engulf him. A profound sorrow washed over him, his failure to protect them. The blue light then strangely connected him to a couple passing on the street. Tears welled, and he was consumed by the bitter regret of a life lived in powerlessness. With a fervent vow, he swore that in another life, he would protect his loved ones with his own strength. His consciousness then embarked on a journey, reborn into a new world, the magical continent of Arcanis. There a crowd had gathered, anticipating an event as a man announced the commencement of the annual divine blessing ceremony. He clarified the sacred tradition. Children under 6 were to offer their most cherished possessions to the gods. In return, a divine messenger would descend, sensing each child's hidden magical element and bestowing a unique opportunity. A small boy innocently asked if he could offer his candy, but his mother firmly explained it must be an item of true value. To underscore her point, a box was revealed, showcasing 2 incredibly expensive and radiant blue jewels. Lady Blank, a noblewoman, boasted that the greater the offering's value, the higher the chance of receiving a powerful blessing. Nearby, 2 men whispered, discussing the Ryan family, who had reportedly squandered their entire fortune for this very blessing. Just then, a distinguished noble family approached the altar with proud, confident strides. It was indeed the Ryan family, and onlookers murmured, considering it a tragedy if after such sacrifice they received no blessing. Hall Ryan, the family patriarch, reflected that he had gambled his bloodline's entire future on this day. He firmly believed his children, Leica and Louis Ryan, were exceptionally bright and destined for a high-level blessing. The presiding priest then called for the next child on the list to present themselves to the eager crowd. Little Julia Ryan was called, and she approached the altar timidly to make her offering. With gentle hands, the little girl presented a small golden crown as her most precious possession to the deities. Immediately, a vast blue magic circle flared to life on the floor, glowing with breathtaking intensity. Beams of raw energy erupted from the circle, astonishing everyone present with the sheer power unleashed. A voice from the crowd whispered, wondering if this could be the legendary blessing of Kahai, the mighty god of thunder. To the collective shock, it was a level 7 blessing, a phenomenon not witnessed in over 12 years. Her family erupted in joyous celebration, convinced that such incredible talent confirmed their divine favor. The magical energy then began to slowly subside, leaving the little girl standing bewildered in the circle's center. As the light finally vanished, Julia stood utterly bewildered, still processing what had just occurred. People commented that her offering, the Crown of Thunder, couldn't have cost the family an entire fortune. A man then pointed out that one child remained, and it was he who would offer the true legendary treasure. The father turned to his son Lucas, signaling it was his turn, and the boy nodded with a confident smile. A servant presented a box to Lucas, requesting he accept the powerful offering held within. As the box opened, everyone recoiled, sensing the ominous, demonic energy emanating from the sword resting inside. As Lucas grasped the sword, the formidable spirit of Volcano, progenitor of magic and god of fire, materialized directly behind him. His little sister encouraged him, urging him to give his all and secure a mighty blessing. The priest watched the boy approach the altar, silently marveling at his bravery for offering such an invaluable item. It became clear to him, the head of the Ryan family had truly staked everything on this boy. Lucas placed the sword upon the altar, and a fiery magic circle burst forth with devastating force. Outside, the sky dramatically shifted, clouds turning a menacing reddish hue. The boy's father stood dumbfounded, questioning if this truly signaled the legendary level 9 blessing. Inside the hall, the torches suddenly flared, burning with an unnatural and alarming intensity. An instant later, a colossal wave of fire erupted from the altar, surging menacingly towards the terrified crowd. Amidst the infernal heat, young Lucas seemed strangely drowsy, almost oblivious to his fiery surroundings. The demonic sword began to float and the boy stared at it, utterly mesmerized by its power. He then noticed a small, flickering flame in his hand, confused by its sudden appearance. Suddenly the flame erupted, engulfing his entire arm and sending the young man into a blinding panic. The inferno's reflection in his eyes betrayed the immense power that was about to be unleashed. In a horrifying flash, the boy's entire body was consumed by flames, and he began to scream in agony. He was utterly swallowed by fire, while the cursed sword floated ominously above him. From deep within the swirling flames, strange orbs of fire began to form, dripping onto the floor. Following this bizarre spectacle, the sky outside miraculously returned to normal, as if nothing had transpired. The boy's father, fraught with worry, asked if the blessing was complete and where the divine spirit had gone, his family watching with deep concern. His little sister then pointed frantically toward the altar, urging everyone to look. Suddenly, a body plummeted from the ceiling, wreathed in eerie blue flames and wisps of gray smoke. At that precise moment, the little girl's lollipop slipped from her hand, hitting the ground and shattering into pieces. Lying motionless on the floor, the boy appeared utterly confused and terrified, with no comprehension of his fate. Witnessing her brother in such a state, little Julia began to sob uncontrollably. Everyone rushed towards him, shouting his name and the Ryan family's name in utter despair. His parents knelt beside him, pleading for him to awaken, their minds reeling from the impossible turn of events. The priest, with a somber expression, then declared that the god of fire had utterly rejected the boy. He explained that Lucas Ryan had been forsaken by the progenitor of magic, destined to receive no blessing. In this critical moment, the soul of our protagonist from another world seamlessly entered young Lucas's body. Meanwhile, in the fiery realm of the god Volcano, rage simmered over the recent events. He raged, furious that the Ryan family had dared to offer the very power that once nearly extinguished his existence. The fire god revealed the blade still bore the scar from its strike against him, a transgression he swore never to forgive. A small fire spirit then appeared, puffing out smoke as if in mocking amusement at the situation. His servants praised him, remarking on his supposed mercy for merely burning the child's soul. One spirit then noticed the soul from another world, questioning if it too should be incinerated. Volcano dismissed the suggestion, declaring he would not waste his time on a mere insect from an outer world. He then turned his fiery gaze toward the offering, deciding to examine it more closely. Our protagonist's soul remained trapped within a blue sphere, observed by Volcano from afar. Within that shimmering sphere, our protagonist's soul fixed its gaze upon an intensely brilliant light before him. The scene shifted to the heavenly spring realm of a martial god, where a powerful figure floated in midair. This was the martial god, his eyes glowing with a golden energy, a clear testament to his immense power. With a grim, determined expression, the martial god seemed to steel himself for a momentous conflict. His feet radiated the same golden energy as he began to stride across an invisible pathway in the air. With a mighty surge, he shattered a dimensional barrier which splintered like fragile glass. The martial god appeared resolute, determined to overcome any obstacle blocking his path. With each powerful step, he continued to tear apart the barrier's separating dimensions. Every stride he took ripped through the fabric of space, forging a path into the uncharted void. Finally, he breached the last barrier, arriving in a realm teeming with stars. There he confronted a colossal creature, its many red eyes glaring, the undisputed ruler of this strange world. The martial god crossed his arms, challenging the colossal monster. "Do you truly intend to obstruct my way?" The creature glared back with terrifying eyes, its maw opening to reveal rows of razor-sharp teeth. Without warning, the entity lunged, unleashing a shadowy attack against the martial god. A blast of dark energy shot towards him, yet the martial god remained utterly unfazed. The monster then opened its gargantuan mouth, attempting to swallow the martial god whole. But the warrior proved too mighty, holding the creature's massive jaws apart, preventing its fatal bite. With a furious gaze, the god prepared a devastating counterattack, ready to eliminate the threat entirely. He channeled all his energy into a single explosive punch, striking the creature with his full, unbridled might. The blow was so immense that a brilliant explosion of golden light utterly obliterated the monster. After vanquishing the creature, the martial god permitted himself a satisfied smile at the battle's definitive outcome. Just then, a massive wormhole tore open in space, manifesting as a swirling portal of blue light. The man stood before the portal, observing the immense power emanating from its depths. A confident smirk played on his lips as he seemed poised to step through the luminous portal. He then casually remarked that this grand source of power was nothing particularly special after all. Suddenly, a small golden light appeared in the void, rapidly speeding towards him. It was a muscular fairy flying towards him, weeping and calling out for her master. The martial god gently caught her in his palm, questioning why his attendant spirit was interrupting him. He then sensed a peculiar disturbance, realizing his old partner, Rekt D, had just been destroyed. The warrior pondered what could possibly be unfolding on the continent of Arcanis to cause such an event. He recalled a time 1,000 years ago when martial arts reigned supreme over magic, a stark contrast to Volcano's current worship. The fairy retorted that if he hadn't been so engrossed in martial arts, that pathetic god would never have ascended to power. The man replied that, regardless, spreading the way of martial arts was a heavy burden to carry. A small flame appeared, and he admitted his lack of interest in developing it, yet acknowledged his inherent duty. He felt compelled to pass on his knowledge, ensuring martial arts would not simply vanish from existence. For this reason, he declared, even a small being like himself must remain perpetually devoted to training. He then turned, beginning to walk towards an intensely bright white light. His consciousness condensed into a tiny point of light, embarking on a journey through the vast void of deep space. Suddenly, our unconscious protagonist heard a voice, wondering if he had somehow survived his apparent demise. He then opened his eyes, finding himself in an utterly new and disorienting situation, unable to comprehend what was happening. In his mind's eye, our protagonist found himself surrounded by the martial god's numerous, muscular faces. Wearing a headband, the young man was utterly bewildered, unable to make sense of any of it. The entity introduced himself as Mars, the martial god, declaring his intention to bestow a divine blessing. Abruptly, Lucas awoke in a bed, questioning if the entire experience had merely been a bizarre dream. Just then, the muscular fairies materialized, flying excitedly about and chanting the martial god's name. The boy was stunned as the entity announced it would bestow upon him the blessing of the martial god. Immediately, a beam of golden light struck him, leaving the young man completely paralyzed. He received the level 9 martial god's blessing, removing all previous limits on his martial arts training. Sitting up in bed, he pondered the meaning of it all, especially martial god level 9. Moreover, he was shocked by the vivid memory of the god's incredibly muscular spirits. The young man was baffled, wondering what was happening, as he should certainly have perished. He recalled the horrific truck accident, utterly unable to comprehend why he was still alive after such an ordeal. With wide, dawning eyes, he began to connect the dots, slowly grasping his new reality. Suddenly, a torrent of memories from the original Lucas, Ryan flooded his mind all at once. He broke into a nervous laugh, wondering if the gods were simply playing a cruel joke on him. He realized he had been reborn into a world of magic, into the body of a boy forsaken by the gods. His thoughts drifted to his mother and sister, realizing they would now live on his insurance payout. Looking down at his hands, he still struggled to grasp the meaning of the martial god's blessing or martial arts themselves. In this moment of utter confusion, a pink and white lollipop mysteriously rolled into his room. The boy turned toward the door, curious about who might have left the sweet treat for him. At the doorway, a little blonde girl called to him, her eyes brimming with tears, her expression deeply sorrowful. A close-up showed her face, tears streaming down her cheeks as she sobbed uncontrollably. She then dashed forward, leaping onto the protagonist, who embraced her tightly. She cried out, "You're finally awake." The little girl explained that she'd overheard people saying he would never wake up, which had terrified her. With a comforting smile, the young man reassured her that everything was fine, thinking, "This must be my new sister, Julia." He then remembered his former sister, Isusa, imagining the profound sadness she must feel at his passing. Because of this, he vowed to protect the precious people in this new life, relying on the martial god's newfound blessing to guide him. The scene shifted to a solemn altar, where a grand and imposing angel statue commanded attention. Though calm and serene in appearance, a strange, unsettling aura began to seep into the air around it. From the angel's eyes, a dark liquid began to trickle, like tears of blood staining its divine face. Swiftly, the entire statue became coated in the grim substance, and from its depths, a malevolent figure materialized. A mysterious woman's voice cut through the air, declaring that the detestable man's presence had at last vanished from the world. She mused aloud, pondering if he had truly passed on or merely abandoned this realm for good. A snake emblem adorned her chest as she lamented the meager power that now remained within her. Her dark hair drifted around her, a subtle sign of her slow recovery from unseen wounds. A sinister smile spread across her lips as she proclaimed, "Without him in my way, this world will soon be entirely mine." 9 years later, the story moved to the opulent mansion of the noble Ryan family. Outside, a young man whistled, dabbing sweat from his brow with a white handkerchief. Lucas Ryan, now a young adult, noted the clear weather, certain his sister Julia had finished her practice. As he set off to find her, a thorny vine suddenly shot out, snaking toward him. He sensed the danger instantly, bracing for the surprise attack that coiled from his side. The thorny weapon ensnared him, pulling tight and immobilizing him in the heart of the garden. The young man grumbled in annoyance, knowing only one person would stoop to such a childish prank. A moment later, his half-brother Jeremy stepped into view, staff in hand, revealing himself as the culprit. Jeremy offered a sarcastic greeting, while a nearby maid giggled at Lucas's predicament. The blonde then warned him, "This backyard is exclusively for the mages of the Ryan family." The thorns tightened, constricting further around Lucas's body, causing a sharp pang of pain. With a cruel smirk, Jeremy threatened to break a few ribs, promising to teach him a lesson. To Jeremy's astonishment, however, Lucas merely let out a bored yawn, leaving his aggressor utterly confused. Lucas then calmly pointed out that his sister was finishing her magic training and would be back any moment. With a serious glare, he warned Jeremy to release him, "unless you want to be fried by her lightning." Jeremy flushed, calling Lucas a coward for hiding behind his sister, arrogantly claiming he wasn't afraid of lightning. In that very instant, a bolt of purple lightning descended from the sky, striking Jeremy with a powerful electric shock. The boy was left completely charred, while the maid screamed in terror for her young master. Lucas glanced back to see his sister Julia approaching, her magic staff already in hand. Her pink staff, adorned with playful cat ears, still crackled with residual purple sparks, a testament to its immense power. Julia, now older and stern, warned Jeremy that if he dared bully her brother again, she wouldn't go easy on him. With an angry pout, she made it clear she was not playing around. She then turned to Lucas, assuring him she would remove the vines immediately. With a flick of Julia's wrist, the thorny vines crumbled to the ground, slowly disintegrating into dust. Lucas affectionately patted his sister's head, and she responded with an adorable smile. He then turned to his half-brother, asking if he had finally learned his lesson about messing with him. Face flushed with rage, Jeremy merely muttered incoherently, unable to form a response. Immediately, he and the maid fled, tails metaphorically tucked, terrified of the girl's power. Lucas remarked that Julia had gone quite easy on Jeremy with that shock, as he appeared perfectly fine. Julia then asked why he hadn't fought back, reminding him that his true strength was their shared secret. Lucas smiled, adding that besides, she was always there to protect him from any harm. With a confident grin, he showed he was merely teasing his beloved little sister. 9 years had now passed since his reincarnation into the body of young Lucas Ryan. He recalled the day he awoke. His father had visited him, leaning on a wooden cane. At the time, Lucas had been certain he would be disowned for failing to meet their expectations. To his astonishment, however, his father had simply embraced him, relieved he had woken up safely. Hall Ryan, Lucas's father, was the revered leader of a renowned order of knights within the kingdom. This position meant he was rarely home, yet he remained a loving and attentive father. When Hall learned Lucas was training in martial arts, he sent a letter with crucial information. The letter mentioned that the family archives held several old tomes on martial arts, ripe for his study. Armed with a candle, young Lucas ventured into the dusty archives, seeking the books his father had mentioned. That letter was the spark. It allowed Lucas to set a bold and ambitious plan for his future in motion. Back in the present, shouts from outside the mansion echoed, calling for young Master Lucas. Inside, two maids complained, noting how young Lucas, despite his age, ran off daily to some unknown location. One maid reassured the other not to worry, claiming he'd be expelled soon for his lack of magic. Just then, they felt a tremor. They wondered if someone was practicing earth magic, oblivious to the true, surprising source of the disturbance. The scene cut to Lucas, who was training, relentlessly punching a solid stone wall with immense force. We then saw young Lucas within a secret cave, one he had personally excavated for his training. He revealed the hideout was directly beneath his room, built painstakingly with his own hands. He explained he'd spent 6 months digging out the space, dividing it into 4 distinct areas: a study, storage, a training ground, and a makeshift bathroom complete with an inexpensive tub. Since completing the training area, he had practiced in secret every day, relentlessly pursuing strength. After another day of grueling training, Lucas prepared to soak in his medicinal bath. The purple water splashed, spectral forms rising from its depths, hinting at its potent properties. Relaxing in the tub, he noted this medicinal bath was the most effective method for his martial arts training. He recounted that 3 years had passed since he began training with the chaotic tempering technique. As a result, he was now so durable that magical attacks of level 5 or below couldn't even scratch him. Lucas stated his defense was finally solidifying. It was time to concentrate on his offense. He retrieved his katana, preparing to test his skills against a training dummy. With a firm grip on his blade, he focused his intent, ready to deliver a powerful, precise strike. In the blink of an eye, he lunged, attacking the dummy with astonishing, lethal speed. His eyes reflected the unwavering determination and power cultivated over years of arduous training. Beyond the sword, he was also a master of other weapons, including the spear. With his spear, Lucas surged forward, delivering a mighty blow against the training dummy. The dummy was then assailed by a barrage of swift, precise attacks, completely overwhelming it. The training target was utterly destroyed, collapsing into pieces on the cavern floor. Having reached level 4 in his technique, he decided to dedicate some time to training his fists. Lucas reflected that while his skills had greatly improved, something continued to bother him. He knew martial artists eventually hit a wall, and the only way past it was through enlightenment. But this elusive enlightenment caused most practitioners to give up along the way. Lucas positioned himself before a stone pillar, declaring his own path would be very different. The young man took a deep breath, concentrating all his energy to unleash a powerful strike on the pillar. With a determined gaze, he prepared to demonstrate the fruits of his arduous training. He smashed his fist with all his might into the massive stone pillar before him. The impact was immense. The pillar shattered into 1,000 fragments, creating a large cloud of dust. Amidst the debris, Lucas observed the outcome of his power with a confident expression. His fist technique reached level 5, a clear demonstration of his ever-growing strength and skill. Lucas then realized his levels only increased. For him, there was no upper limit. This was due to the divine blessing he received, allowing his abilities to evolve without end. Suddenly, a clock on the wall began to chime, signaling that it was nearly midnight. He remembered his father Hall was returning home tonight, and they were scheduled for a family dinner. The scene then shifted to a mansion window, revealing that night had already fallen. Now fully dressed, Lucas walked down the corridor toward the mansion's dining hall. Upon opening the door, he found his family assembled for the special dinner. His father, Hall, noted it had been half a year since their last meeting and invited him to take a seat. With a smile, Lucas agreed, making his way to his place at the grand dining table. The patriarch then announced that Allen Academy was establishing a martial arts department, and Lucas had already been enrolled. Hall encouraged him, acknowledging the difficulty, but expressing deep faith in his son's potential to pass the exam. Lucas offered his thanks, while his sister Julia ate calmly at his side. The young man mused that he must grow stronger to protect what was important, but without attracting undue attention. Gazing at his hand, he contemplated how to balance his burgeoning power without causing problems. His sister then raised her hand, declaring she also wanted to attend Allen's Magic Academy with him. Her father stated she was too young, but Julia countered that the elite class had no age restriction. The young woman then revealed she had already received an offer from the academy for the elite class and presented the letter. Intrigued, Hall took the letter, confirming his daughter's incredible claim. He praised Julia, remarking that her reputation as a prodigy had indeed reached the renowned Allen Academy. Julia beamed with joy while Jeremy looked on with intense, seething jealousy. The blonde boy wondered why Lucas was receiving special treatment and how this would affect his own standing. At that moment, a hand in a purple glove rested on Jeremy's shoulder, attempting to soothe his anger and envy. The woman told him to remain calm. Jeremy was slightly startled by the unexpected touch. With a serene look, she advised him not to concern himself with Lucas's situation. This was Jessica Ryan, Jeremy's mother, who added there was no guarantee Lucas would even pass the exam. A malicious smile played on her lips, suggesting she was plotting something against Lucas. A week later, the morning of their journey dawned, and the family assembled at the gate for their farewells. Lucas and Julia's mother embraced them, urging them to be careful and promising a visit soon with a special pudding. She then placed a gleaming gold coin into each of their hands, a precious keepsake, a good luck charm not to be forgotten. This coin, she explained, was an ancient relic from the Buon dynasty, a power that had united the world 10 millennia past. Their father added that the coin bore the image of the first emperor, Mars, on one side and his fabled weapon on the other. Lucas, the protagonist, instantly recognized the emperor's visage. It was the muscular spirit who had once blessed him. Both parents pressed upon him the importance of keeping the coin close, a constant source of good fortune. The young man was overcome with gratitude, feeling blessed to have known such a loving family in both his lives. With final goodbyes exchanged, the siblings set off, beginning their long journey toward the academy. Hours later, as dusk began to settle, the coachman announced it was time to make camp for the night. Night fully embraced the land, a brilliant full moon casting its silver glow upon the clearing where they sought safe refuge. Foron, the coachman, assured them that an early start would see them arrive in Daku, the city of the academy. The next morning, Julia, brimming with excitement, inquired about the interesting sights and activities Daku offered. Fortin revealed that Daku was famous for its annual magical dodgeball tournament, a spring spectacle. He added that the region was a haven for gourmands, boasting many delightful local dishes. Julia's mouth watered visibly at the thought, prompting her brother to playfully tease her about drooling. Suddenly, Lucas sensed a disturbance in the air, his expression sharpening, becoming serious and alert. His heightened perception picked up the distinct thrum of 12 horses and 13 riders rapidly closing in. Lucas then turned to Foron, asking if this part of the road was known for banditry. He trusted his senses, honed by his unique training, knowing this was no mere figment of imagination. The protagonist understood the precarious situation. They were outnumbered and vulnerable within the dense forest. He wasted no time, warning everyone that a mysterious group was fast approaching and they needed to brace themselves. Foron and the others exchanged puzzled glances, hearing only the familiar whispers of the forest, nothing more. Despite their confusion, one of the guards, ever vigilant, drew his sword, his grip firm and ready. Fortin, choosing caution, then bellowed for his men to arm themselves, preparing for an unseen, impending clash. The coachman might not have understood the young man's foresight, but he chose prudence over regret. Just then, a band of horse-mounted outlaws erupted from the tree line, charging at full gallop towards their camp. A guard gasped in disbelief. The bandits had indeed appeared, precisely as the young man had foretold. The bandit leader cackled with glee at their new prey, while a subordinate lauded his chief's unerring instincts. Another leered, commenting that the girl would fetch a handsome price, and the boy, he added, would find favor with certain clientele. Foron stepped forward, his voice thundering as he demanded if they understood the repercussions of assaulting nobility. The leader merely scoffed, ordering his men to eliminate everyone but the two young targets. As the brigands advanced, a guard shouted, vowing to cover Foron during the ensuing struggle. A bandit, a cruel smile twisting his lips, raised his sword, poised to strike down the family's protectors. A moment later, steel met steel, the jarring clang echoing through the still, dark forest. One of the mounted guards, with a swift and precise thrust, impaled a bandit with his spear. Witnessing his comrade's demise, the bandit leader's face contorted into a mask of furious rage. Foron too proved his prowess, his blade now crimson as he brought down several attackers. With a resolute gaze, he turned to Julia, assuring her he would handle the remaining foes. Then, with unwavering courage, he charged headlong into the fray, engaging the remaining bandits with all his strength. Foron urgently pleaded with the young master to take Julia and escape, ensuring their survival. Suddenly, Lucas heard a sharp cry of pain, and his expression clouded with instant dread. A bandit unleashed a blast of fire magic, a searing fireball engulfing and incinerating the family guards. The bandit leader revealed himself as a mage, and Foron watched in horror as the destructive fire magic flared. The coachman then screamed for the two youths to flee into the forest, promising to create a diversion. But in a moment of vulnerability, Foron was struck by a fatal blow, and crimson liquid bloomed against him. Seeing his friend fall, Lucas cried out Foron's name, a sound of utter despair. Surrounded by the attackers, the injured coachman collapsed to his knees, his strength utterly spent. The bandit leader loomed, threatening to burn him alive for slaying his comrade. Even grievously wounded, Foron forced himself upright, vowing to protect the young masters no matter the cost. Lucas knew Foron was outmatched, realizing he could no longer hide his true strength if he wished to save him. He recalled the coachman's enduring kindness, understanding that Foron had become akin to family. With a clenched fist, the young man instructed his sister to conceal herself. The danger was now too great. His gaze hardened with resolve as he declared his intent to join the battle and aid his friend. Julia nodded, her eyes wide with understanding, pleading with her brother to exercise extreme caution. And with that, the protagonist surged forward, sprinting towards the chaotic struggle to rescue his friend. Meanwhile, Foron was being overwhelmed by multiple assailants, crying out in sheer agony. Exhausted and deeply wounded, the coachman finally collapsed to his knees, unable to continue the fight. The bandit leader raised his sword high, poised to deliver the decisive final strike to the fallen man. Foron looked up, despair etched upon his face, accepting that his valiant stand had reached its end. But before the blow could land, a swift, mysterious shadow intervened, deflecting the attack and saving the coachman. The bandits recoiled, stunned by the sudden intervention, wondering what uncanny force had just appeared. Then streaks of golden light arced through the air, striking the bandits with uncanny, deadly precision. Each luminous projectile found its mark, striking vital points and felling the enemies instantly. In a blinding flash, the mysterious light-based attacks swiftly dispatched the remaining henchmen. Lucas's hand was revealed, now glowing with a brilliant, radiant golden energy. He remarked that his training had proven quite useful, making short work of these common bandits. The bandit leader erupted in a fit of rage, demanding to know who dared to fell his men. Sweat streamed down his face as he realized his entire contingent had been vanquished in mere moments. He then raised his magic staff, intending to unleash the full force of his fury upon the helpless coachman. With a snarl, an enormous fireball erupted from his staff, hurtling towards Foron to finish him forever. With no strength left to evade, the coachman closed his eyes, accepting his fate, finding solace that the children would live. A faint smile touched his lips as he silently thanked the heavens for allowing him to protect them both. But our hero suddenly materialized before Foron, extending a hand to intercept the fiery projectile. With a graceful leap and a swift flick of his wrist, he redirected the colossal fireball far into the night. Foron stared, utterly speechless, tears welling in his eyes at the unbelievable sight before him. His voice trembled as he called out to the young master, bewildered by such an impossible feat. The bandit leader, equally perplexed, wondered how his powerful fireball had simply vanished. Yet he refused to yield, already preparing to unleash another devastating spell upon their hero. But Lucas, his eye glowing with inner power, calmly declared that the bandit's time was already up. In a blur of motion, the protagonist surged forward, delivering a luminous, devastating punch to the bandit leader. The impact was immense, the man erupting into a crimson spray as a shockwave rippled violently through the clearing. Foron gazed in utter astonishment at the scene, stammering a question about the young master's power. With a confident, victorious grin, the young man simply replied that he seemed to possess a natural talent for martial arts. The coachman wept openly with emotion, overwhelmed by the incredible strength the young master now commanded. Suddenly, Lucas sensed an unsettling presence, and both he and Foron grew instantly alert to a new, unforeseen threat. Amidst the swirling smoke and dust, a dark, malevolent presence began to coalesce. From the bandit leader's remains, a skeletal creature with sharp claws and a pulsing purple aura began to rise. Its grotesque skull and piercing, glowing eyes left no doubt. This was a being of pure, ancient malevolence. The monster let out a horrifying roar, baring its sharp teeth ready to strike. It shrieked a promise of destruction for them both, its eyes burning with hatred and fury. The monster repeated its deadly threat, coiling itself to unleash a fatal assault. Our protagonist stayed on high alert, understanding the creature needed to be dealt with swiftly. He knew Julia could not witness this, resolving to eliminate the monster by himself. With a sudden surge, the creature lashed out its sharp claws, aiming to tear the young man apart. But the young man was quicker, deftly dodging the blow by leaping over the monstrous form. He descended with a powerful, light-infused punch, targeting the monster's head. The protagonist watched the blow connect, hoping it would be enough to bring the creature down. With his hands still glowing purple, he braced himself for any potential counterattack. Suddenly, a wave of dark red energy surged toward him with immense, chilling force. Then dark chains shot up from the ground, ensnaring the bodies of the fallen bandits. The creature absorbed the corpses, transforming into an even more grotesque and powerful entity. A glowing purple snake symbol appeared on its forehead, revealing the source of its renewed power. Our protagonist then wondered if that symbol was the key to controlling the undead. The monster licked its lips with a purple tongue, preparing to unleash its full might upon the young man. With numerous arms and legs, the creature scuttled bizarrely toward our hero. The young man concluded that if standard attacks failed, he would need to resort to a new technique. Concentrating energy into his hands, he unleashed a rapid volley of light-based strikes against the monster. The attack directly struck the symbol on the creature's forehead, causing a brilliant explosion of light. The protagonist prepared to use one of his most powerful techniques to vanquish the monster for good. With an explosive aura palm, he struck the symbol with all of his accumulated power. The immense blow unleashed a massive beam of golden light that completely pierced the creature. The purple symbol was hit squarely, fracturing under the overwhelming force of the attack. A moment later, the mark shattered into 1,000 pieces, and the monster began to disintegrate. With the creature vanquished, the young man watched its silhouette dissolve into ash on the wind. Exhausted after the intense battle, the protagonist sank to the ground to regain his strength. He let out a sigh of relief, thankful to have defeated the monster and protected everyone. His sister Julia then rushed to his side, checking if he was all right after the difficult fight. She leaped into his arms, congratulating him for defeating all the bandits by himself. Fortin, who had watched everything from afar, was left completely stunned, unable to process what had happened. Suddenly, the protagonist sensed another presence approaching, turning toward the forest on high alert. A horse whinnied, and the young man realized their group wasn't the only one attacked by the bandits. A young woman with white hair appeared on horseback, her face etched with desperation. She was bound and gagged, leaving our hero taken aback by her state. In a dark chamber, numerous bodies hung upside down, their appearance ghastly. A creature with sharp fangs greedily licked the red liquid dripping from them. It was the same woman from the altar, now discovering that subject number 44 had been eliminated by an unknown hand. She decided that restoring her power was the top priority and stepped into a dark, mysterious pool. The night wore on, a waning moon shining down from the sky upon the group's camp. Back at the camp, Julia learned the white-haired girl's name was Mayor Rasta. Lucas found the name familiar, yet couldn't recall where he might have heard it before. The rescued young woman remarked that his family name also sounded familiar to her. Fortin then explained that both were noble houses residing near the city of Daku. Julia then wondered how the girl ended up being attacked by those bandits in the forest. With tears in her eyes, the young woman began to recount the tragic events that led her there. She remembered the bandit leader's laughter as he brutally assaulted her carriage. Her guards were overcome one by the bandit mage's flames, helpless to defend themselves. Her lady-in-waiting tried to protect her, but was captured and carried off by the bandits on horseback. The white-haired girl recalled her friend's desperation amidst the inferno. She explained that revealing her noble status proved futile, as the bandits were completely indifferent. She clarified that the bandits' sole objective was to abduct children from the region's noble families. Our protagonist then comforted her, reassuring her that it was all over now as they had been dealt with. He became lost in thought, trying to piece together what was truly happening in the area. Fortin approached, informing them that the two young ladies had retired to rest after the tumultuous night. The young man then asked the coachman for his thoughts on the rescued girl's story. Fortin believes they were dealing with professionals who had been targeting noble children for some time. The young man mused that bandits wielding magic and the power to control the dead was highly unusual. The coachman's expression turned grave as he considered the implications of that night's events. He concluded that a terrifying demon must be orchestrating everything, controlling these puppets from the shadows. Fortin stated he would report everything to the master, adding that the Rasta family's cooperation would be invaluable. The protagonist then suggested they alter their plans to avoid any further trouble on their journey. The following day, the group arrived in the city of Daku, but their plan to stay was immediately cancelled. The young man explained that some bandits could still be in the city, making it safer to proceed directly to the academy. He asked his sister and their new friend to understand that this precaution was for everyone's safety. The white-haired young woman agreed with our hero's decision to avoid additional risks. With the change in plans, the protagonist's sister wore an expression of pure disappointment. With a gentle smile, he promised that on their return trip, he would treat her to anything she wanted to eat. The girl's spirits lifted at the promise, and the rescued young woman smiled, observing the siblings' close bond. Fortin announced their entry into the city and asked if they would like to look out the window. The two siblings then poked their heads out of the carriage to get a view of Daku. Both siblings were captivated by the beauty and sheer scale of the city of Daku. The city bustled with life as people thronged the streets and merchants peddled their wares. A father carried his son on his shoulders as they wandered through the lively city. The white-haired young woman smiled, commenting on how vibrant and energetic the place was. Lucas and Julia used the opportunity to chat and enjoy the moment with their new friend. The protagonist reflected that the city's atmosphere strongly reminded him of his past life. The wooden architecture and cobblestone streets lent the city a unique and special charm. Suddenly, a bizarre clown doll startled the two girls, who let out a scream of fear. But our hero quickly bought an assortment of sweets and pastries to soothe their nerves and lift everyone's spirits. The white-haired young woman offered a donut to Julia, who ate it with great delight. With a satisfied smile, the young man watched the two girls happily enjoy their treats. The carriage then continued its journey through the city streets, heading toward the Magic Academy. Fortin stopped in front of a massive gate, informing them that this was as far as he could take them. The protagonist reassured him, promising to protect his sister Julia from any harm. The girl then embraced him, declaring that she would also protect him with all her strength and magic. With a smile, the young man patted his sister's head, saying he was counting on her. Fortin was moved by the scene, realizing the depth of the siblings' love and devotion to each other. The rescued young woman found it curious that he would allow his younger sister to protect him in such a way. The coachman then bid them farewell, watching as the three youths walked off toward the academy. The white-haired girl thought about how kind they were and pointed toward the academy just ahead. The protagonist smiled, reflecting on his good fortune in meeting these two on his journey. The white-haired girl was also happy, blushing as she thought about how much they had helped her. Suddenly, the young man remembered something from last night, where Fortin had clarified the situation. The coachman had revealed that the young woman, Maya, was once our protagonist's fiancée when they were children. However, after the divine ritual, the engagement was dissolved because he lacked any magical talent. Within the sprawling Carmen Empire nestled in the city of Daku stood Allen Magic Academy, one of its three most esteemed institutions. A year after their enrollment, first-year students faced a crucial examination, a rite of passage determining their placement into various academic departments. Yet for those truly exceptional students, an accelerated path existed, allowing them to graduate ahead of their classmates. Indeed, merely passing a rigorous certification exam could grant a student early graduation, bypassing the typical six-year curriculum. Now, the two siblings watched as a multitude of other students prepared themselves for the demanding admission exam. A pang of sadness touched Julia's heart. She wished she could face the test alongside her recently befriended companion. Her brother gently reminded her that their friend had already completed her own examination and was now safely reunited with her family. He urged Julia to concentrate on their upcoming test, assuring her they would see their friend daily if they all succeeded. Julia's radiant beauty drew every eye and whispers spread, questioning if this young girl was also here to take the entrance exam. Onlookers remarked that she appeared no older than 12, and her brother, they agreed, was undeniably handsome. One young man watching them voiced his envy, wishing he possessed such an adorable younger sister. Suddenly, a striking woman with flowing purple hair approached, immediately catching little Julia's attention. The woman introduced herself as Mina, the esteemed vice president of the student council at Allen Magic Academy. A warm smile graced Mina's lips as she playfully inquired if the young girl had perhaps snuck in to accompany her elder brother. Julia, with unwavering pride, quickly denied it, declaring she was indeed there to take the admission exam alongside him. A flicker of recognition crossed Mina's face. Could this be the very girl who had received an exclusive offer for the elite class? A knowing smile then bloomed as she confirmed her suspicion. This young girl was a true prodigy, destined to be an exceptional student. Kneeling gracefully, Mina then asked if she was Julia, of the renowned noble Ryan family from this very region. Startled, Julia questioned how the woman knew her name and family so readily. Mina then warmly invited Julia to the registration area, completely forgetting the young man standing beside her. Little Julia, ever observant, spoke up, gently reminding Mina that her brother also needed to register for the admission exam. A blush of embarrassment spread across Mina's cheeks as she realized her oversight, having completely forgotten about the hero standing before her. The young man then began to scoff at mages, muttering that attending a magic academy was simply ludicrous. In his mind, mages might believe themselves superior, but to him, they were nothing more than insignificant insects. He mused that mere losers like Jeremy and that strange monster could never contend with his overwhelming might. He grumbled, convinced he was merely wasting his precious time here, all due to his parents' well-meaning intentions. The student council member, startled, realized he had been speaking his thoughts aloud, causing him to become flustered by the sudden attention. Mina quickly apologized for her oversight, then called him by name, seeking to confirm his identity. Lucas, suddenly aware he was the focus of everyone's gaze, attempted to conceal his growing irritation. Mina then invited them to follow her, offering to personally guide them to the examination hall. The protagonist noted with a measure of relief that she was among the rare few who did not regard him with prejudice. Soon the group arrived at a vast hall, already bustling with a large crowd of students gathered for the impending exam. With a graceful flick of her wrist, Mina conjured and distributed emblems, instructing everyone to register with a council member. She clarified that the exam number was etched upon each emblem, which must remain visible throughout the entire test. The examination, she explained, comprised three distinct phases. First, the measurement of magical potential, followed by an assessment of elemental compatibility, and finally, a demonstration of destructive power. Our protagonist then inquired if the testing procedure remained the same for those entering the martial arts department. He muttered under his breath, suspecting the academy had simply been too lazy to devise a specialized test for martial artists. With a defiant crack of his knuckles, he prepared to unveil the true might of a martial artist to all present. His resolve hardened. He would demonstrate the overwhelming power of martial arts and utterly shatter their narrow-minded preconceptions. An instructor's voice boomed, announcing the commencement of the first test, directing students to place their hands upon a glowing magical orb. When it was our hero's turn, the instructor fixed him with a look of undisguised disdain and contempt. Yet the man was utterly stunned by the ensuing result, proclaiming it a phenomenon seen perhaps once in a millennium. The young man's magical potential registered at an absolute zero, and the vast hall immediately erupted in a wave of cruel ridicule. A weary sigh escaped him. He felt as though he were reliving the very same ordeal that had plagued his childhood. Next, a girl with purple hair stepped forward, placing her hand upon the luminous sphere to measure her own magical potential. The other students gasped as a distinct purple light emanated from the magical sphere, filling the air. That vibrant purple signified a potential of 7 out of 10, instantly marking her as a first-class student. Our protagonist, however, couldn't fathom the excitement. To him, such a result was nothing particularly special. He then called out to his sister, urging her not to hold back, but to reveal her genuine power to everyone. The girl gripped the sphere with both hands, concentrating intently as she prepared to unleash her inner energy. The sphere then began to pulse with an intensely brilliant, blinding golden light, forcing all present to avert their eyes. A towering beam of golden light shot upward, piercing the hall's ceiling, leaving everyone utterly awestruck by the sheer display of power. The other students stared in profound disbelief, unable to reconcile what they were witnessing with reality. Within the dazzling light, the number 10 materialized, signifying the girl possessed the absolute maximum magical potential. Mesmerized by her extraordinary talent, everyone hailed the young girl as a true prodigy among prodigies. After the test, the girl smiled, clearly pleased with her result, and glanced at her brother with an expression of proud accomplishment. She bounded over to him, eagerly asking if she had been incredible during the potential test. The young man praised her warmly, assuring her that with such talent, she would one day become a great archmage. 2 envious students began to quietly mock our protagonist, but were swiftly silenced by a discerning friend. The protagonist inwardly noted that everything was unfolding precisely as planned, and there was no sense in starting a confrontation now. He understood that so long as Julia's talent continued to shine so brilliantly, his own school life could remain pleasantly peaceful. All his arduous efforts to amplify his sister's inherent talent were finally yielding their desired fruit. He had secretly employed the powerful mage's consecration ability to enhance the young girl's magical potential. The instructor then announced the second test, and the students collectively began to make their way toward the designated spirit cabin. They entered a magnificent hall crowned with a grand glass ceiling, allowing brilliant light to bathe the entire space. Hand in hand, the 2 siblings walked onward, heading toward the next phase of their examination. A vast hall, marked by several prominent blue pillars, served as the compatibility testing area. Within its expanse, countless elemental spirits danced and shimmered, each a vibrant display of magical prowess. The other students watched in silent awe, captivated by the sheer diversity of spirits that filled the space. The instant little Julia stepped into the hall, every spirit in the room surged forward, forming a swirling, protective circle around her. A gentle smile graced her lips as she reached out, interacting with the spirits who clearly reveled in her warmth. Elsewhere, a frustrated student grumbled, lamenting his inability to draw even a single wind spirit to his side. Our protagonist watched, a knowing smile playing on his face, understanding his sister possessed unparalleled compatibility with every element. He mused inwardly that his own unique ability quietly amplified her potential, a hidden strength. The instructor's voice cut through the air, announcing Julia's score, a staggering 9.6, the highest recorded. This remarkable achievement instantly drew a mixture of admiring and envious stares from her peers. Students flocked to her, showering her with praise and requests for friendship, but the sudden attention proved overwhelming. With a sudden rush, she fled to her brother, seeking solace and refuge in his comforting embrace. He gently soothed her, inquiring what had so suddenly startled her. Trembling, she explained that everyone's gazes filled her with fear, clinging tighter behind him. Her brother explained that as a true genius, this kind of attention would become her new normal. He urged her not to mind the others, encouraging her to slowly grow accustomed to the spotlight. A small smile returned to her face as she declared her resolve to grow stronger, so she might one day protect her older brother. He realized then that building his sister's mental resilience would be crucial for her future. Elsewhere, 2 students conversed, their discussion centered on Julia's astonishing exam results. One scoffed, pointing out her brother's apparent uselessness, given his zero compatibility score. They recalled the earlier scene when he had entered the hall, and every spirit had recoiled, fleeing his presence. For reasons unknown, the spirits seemed to harbor an intense disgust and repulsion towards the young man. The other student then brought up a peculiar incident following the second test. He described witnessing a fire spirit's arm spontaneously tear away, a sight that had deeply unnerved him. His friend dismissed it, suggesting the spirits were too small and he must have imagined it. Our protagonist, overhearing their hushed tones, grew thoughtful, his mind pondering their words. He found it hard to believe someone had witnessed what truly happened during that second exam. He recalled how the fire spirits, due to their bond with the fire god, had been especially hostile towards him. Just as the test ended and he prepared to depart, he had given the spirits a quiet warning. He remembered one particular fire spirit angrily spitting flames directly in his path. He inwardly scoffed, considering it childish to cling to a grudge from so long ago. From the ground he picked up a small pebble, clenching it tightly in his palm. With a sudden flick, he sent the stone flying, striking the spirit squarely and sending it tumbling. "A mere servant of the fire god has no right to act superior to me," he declared. Taking his sister's hand, he invited her to join him for the admission exam's final challenge. She responded that all would be well, so long as he refrained from using his full strength. With a smile, he assured her he intended to let her protect him, as she always did. The destructive power test was held in a vast arena, filled with numerous metal dummies. These dummies, forged from a gleaming, special metal, were built to endure the students' most powerful attacks. The siblings then made their way towards the arena, ready for the final stage of the admission exam. Nearby, a cluster of envious students grumbled, upset that the genius girl had claimed the top spot. One student loudly declared it impossible for a mere child to break any of those formidable metal dummies. They elaborated that the dummies were not only crafted from special metal, but also reinforced with potent defense enchantments. The protagonist observed the dummies, noting their formidable appearance and apparent durability. He considered this the ideal chance to test his level 6 abilities against such sturdy targets. The prospect of utilizing such high-quality, expensive equipment stirred a thrill within him. Abruptly, a student shoved him, attempting to cut in front for the exam. A short-haired girl immediately yelled at the offender, ordering him back to the end of the line. Pointing to another girl, she asserted the rule was plain: the talentless belonged at the rear. Her eyes gleamed with an intense red light, a vivid display of her inherent power. The girl she addressed visibly recoiled, intimidated by the intense gaze and menacing aura. With her heart radiating light, the dark-haired young woman prepared to showcase her formidable strength. She took her stance before the protagonist and his sister, her expression serious and challenging. With a dismissive sigh, she cast a contemptuous glare at the girl who had tried to skip the line. Julia and her brother watched the unfolding scene, uncertain what to make of this enigmatic girl. The dark-haired young woman then addressed Julia, asking if she was the one who scored 9.6. Her eyes blazed with frightening intensity as she stared at Julia with undisguised contempt. Frightened, Julia hid behind her brother, calling his name in a shaky, terrified whisper. She confessed to her brother that the girl before them was utterly terrifying and intimidating. The young man then turned to the dark-haired girl, demanding to know her identity and purpose. She introduced herself as Awa Miranda, granddaughter of the formidable and influential Duke Miranda. The protagonist recognized the distinctive Miranda family crest, identifying them as one of the Empire's 3 paramount noble houses. His own mother, Catherine, had also been a Miranda, from a lineage renowned for legendary mages. This realization meant Awa was his mother's younger brother's daughter, making them cousins. The girl looked confused, wondering what he meant, having never heard of him. He clarified their familial tie, asking her to cease glaring at him so fiercely. Awa erupted in fury, having never been told of a cousin, and branded him rude and arrogant. She vowed to humiliate him publicly, her eyes flaring with a malicious, burgeoning power. The young woman then readied a powerful, destructive spell, aiming it at our protagonist. Awa cast a mind control spell, commanding him to strip for public humiliation. Yet the protagonist merely offered a mocking smirk. The spell had no effect whatsoever. The dark-haired girl stood in utter shock, her magic having failed completely. The young man then taunted her, questioning the quality of the noble Miranda family's upbringing. Awa could not comprehend why her signature spell had failed to control him. He provoked her further, stating her weak magic was useless against a true martial artist. At that moment, the instructor called our hero's name for the next part of the exam. Before departing, he pointed to his sister, cautioning her not to overly display her abilities during her test. Awa then shifted her focus to Julia, vowing to seize the top spot from her in the power test. A magical screen shimmered, displaying student rankings with Julia firmly in first place. The young man noted his cousin's second-place ranking and her effective declaration of war on his sister. He decided that for a peaceful school life, he could not permit her to usurp Julia's top position. With this resolve, he offered his sister a piece of candy, hoping to ensure her strong performance in the coming test. The girl ate the candy, but her face immediately scrunched in disgust at its bitter, unpleasant flavor. The young man gave her a firm pat on the back, helping her swallow the pill he had given her. The young girl complained that he had tricked her. It was clearly medicine, not candy. He apologized, explaining it was a special magic potion, brewed from extremely rare ingredients. The instructor called our protagonist's name once more, and he quickly made his way to the testing site. The young man approached the metal dummy, ready for his destructive power test. The instructor directed number 5 to strike the dummy with full force for evaluation. The young man informed the instructor he could not use magic, a statement that clearly confused him. He then asked if simply striking the dummy would suffice to complete the power test. A confident smile played on his lips as he prepared to unleash the full power of his martial arts. A wave of derision rippled through the onlookers, their voices mocking, suggesting he was destined only to break his hand in the coming test. Julia's eyes blazed with fury at the venomous remarks aimed at her brother, and she braced herself, ready to leap into action. A thought flashed through her mind. Had her brother not cautioned her to behave, those insolent students would already be learning a harsh lesson. Intrigued by the unfolding scene, Awa leaned forward, wondering aloud if her brother truly lacked the ability to wield magic. She remembered her own mental magic, utterly ineffective against him, and found the idea of his inability hard to reconcile. The protagonist's sister, standing tall, proudly declared her brother an extraordinary individual, defending his honor. Yet the dark-haired young woman remained skeptical, a gnawing suspicion that her older brother was somehow manipulating the truth. Suddenly, a deafening crash reverberated through the arena, and every head snapped towards the screen, expressions of disbelief painted on their faces. The protagonist's cousin stood frozen, utterly astonished by the unexpected turn of events in the young man's examination. A bewildered student mumbled a question about what had just occurred, but a collective bewilderment hung in the air. No one could comprehend the sight. The young man had simply asked if he might deliver one single blow, and the instructor, with a nod, had readily granted permission. The instructor had made it clear, the method of attack was irrelevant as long as the act was performed. With eyes alight with resolve, our hero prepared to unveil a hidden power to all who watched. He mused to himself that his abilities multiplied exponentially with every 3 advancements in his power level. Reaching power level 6, he braced himself, poised to unleash one of his most formidable techniques. He stamped his foot, a forceful thud against the ground, channeling every ounce of his energy into preparation for a devastating strike. His eyes pulsed with an inner light as he surged forward, a blur of motion racing towards the formidable metal dummy. A golden flame enveloped his fist as he delivered a precise, powerful strike directly to the dummy before him. The dummy emitted a sharp beep, a red circle illuminating to confirm the blow had been successfully registered. The force of the impact was immense, sending the dummy soaring through the air, only to collide with a violent crash against the arena wall. A colossal cloud of dust erupted, billowing upwards, and the very ground of the arena shuddered under the sheer power of the assault. When the dust finally began to settle, it revealed the metal dummy utterly destroyed, a cavernous, gaping hole torn through its chest. Our protagonist then slowly turned, facing the hushed crowd with an expression of cool, undeniable confidence. Awa gasped in shock, a sudden realization dawning on her. His attack possessed the blinding speed of the highest wind magic. She observed that the dummy had glowed with a golden hue, an unmistakable indicator of truly devastating attack power. The dark-haired young woman understood then that she alone had truly comprehended the young man's hidden, formidable strength. The instructor, recovering from his shock, congratulated him, remarking that it had been a full decade since a testing dummy had met such a fate. The young man offered a quiet smile in his thanks, while his sister cheered, openly celebrating his triumph in the power test. A triumphant smile spread across the girl's face as she flashed her brother a peace sign, a silent acknowledgement of his victory. The protagonist reflected that he had not only averted a failing grade, but also managed to keep his true power largely hidden, all thanks to the short-sightedness of those who had underestimated him. As the day progressed, the initial awe surrounding the young man's destructive power gradually faded from the students' minds. Instead, all eyes were drawn to the truly astonishing rare talent displayed by the petite, yet undeniably mighty Julia. The girl then focused, and a massive surge of magical energy began to swirl and coalesce around her. Arcs of vibrant purple lightning crackled from her hands, and her staff pulsed with an unnervingly intense glow. A luminous purple magic circle shimmered into existence on the ground beneath her, signaling her readiness to unleash her most potent attack. Her hair whipped wildly around her as she cried out the spell's name, unleashing a devastating barrage of crimson lightning. The red bolts descended from the heavens like a furious storm, striking the metal dummy with immense destructive force. The dummy emitted a red beep, confirming the attack was indeed red lightning, known as the second most powerful type. The other students watched in utter awe of the girl's raw power, their murmurs hailing her as a future honor roll student. But once the attack subsided, Julia slumped abruptly to the ground, prompting whispers among the onlookers. Had she been overwhelmed by her own immense spell? The girl herself was perplexed, utterly bewildered by how she had suddenly commanded such formidable, unforeseen power. The instructor's voice cut through the silence, announcing a score of 9.5 as the dummy still crackled faintly with residual red sparks. The young girl turned to her brother, explaining how the sudden, unbidden appearance of red lightning had completely startled her. She recounted that before even exerting her full strength, she had only ever managed to conjure purple lightning. The young man scratched his nose, feigning complete ignorance regarding the abrupt surge in her magical abilities. He mused inwardly that the potion he had given her was, in fact, temporarily enhancing her magical prowess. In this realm, both mages and martial artists possessed their unique methods for creating specialized concoctions. Mages meticulously brewed their potions, while martial artists utilized their inherent powers to refine potent elixirs. Elixirs were designed for direct bodily absorption, unlike potions which necessitated a medium for proper consumption. Scarcely any martial artists possessed the rare skill to create the fabled elixir of the mage's essence. And this very elixir was the secret behind Julia's sudden, dramatic increase in power. Such a feat was only possible when the elixir refining technique itself had reached level 6, the threshold for its effectiveness. At present, only our protagonist and the esteemed minister of martial arts possessed the capability to craft this particular elixir. The young man considered the grave implications. If his unique ability were ever unveiled, he would face an overwhelming predicament. The morning sun cast a bright, golden glow over the academy grounds, where students anxiously awaited the announcement of their final exam results. Two tiny birds chirped melodiously from a nearby tree branch, their song underscoring the momentary tranquility. Julia fidgeted, grumbling about the prolonged wait, to which her brother simply advised patience, reminding her that rest would soon follow. A voice suddenly called out, drawing the attention of the two siblings, who turned to identify the speaker. It was Mina from the student council, approaching with a warm smile and a friendly wave directed at them both. The young man inquired about her presence, as the woman continued her calm approach. She explained her purpose was to post the new class assignments, and offered her heartfelt congratulations on their exceptional performance. Julia's face lit up with pure joy upon learning she had secured the top position in the academy's esteemed elite class. Our protagonist offered her praise, emphasizing his reliance on her for their collective future within the school. Mina then asked if the girl had already decided which department she would join for the approaching academic year. She elaborated on the academy's 5 distinct departments: earth, fire, wind, water, and a unique special division. Considering her natural attributes and the blessing of the wind god upon her, Julia swiftly chose to align herself with the wind department. The student council member's excitement was palpable as she expressed her eager anticipation of seeing Julia within the ranks of the wind department. The young man inwardly noted her dedication, realizing she was already actively recruiting promising new talent for her division. Mina then kindly offered to escort the young girl to the female dormitory, where Julia offered her brother a quick farewell. Our hero said his goodbyes and resolved to make his way to his own designated department, that of martial arts. Among the other students, murmurs confirmed what many had anticipated. Julia indeed had claimed the coveted first place. The magical screen glowed with the final results, rendering all other freshmen mere shadowy figures against Julia's luminous success. Awa simmered with quiet fury over her defeat, silently vowing that one day, no matter the cost, she would stand at the top of their class. Lucas found himself unsurprised, knowing his martial arts department often received little consideration. Upon reaching the dormitory, he was greeted by a crumbling, decrepit building that appeared on the verge of collapse. A small smile touched his lips as he imagined the quiet solitude this rundown place might offer, promising the peaceful school life he sought. His thoughts were interrupted by the sudden appearance of a young man with white hair, who offered an enthusiastic smile and a greeting. The newcomer introduced himself as Kai, cheerfully announcing his pleasure at meeting his new department mate. Kai praised Lucas's strength during the recent test, but Lucas, focused on filling out a form, simply brushed it off as luck. A dormitory staff member then provided Lucas with a room key, indicating his room was located on the second floor. The white-haired young man, Kai, expressed his delight that they would be sharing a room, and Lucas nodded in agreement. Together, they began their walk down a filthy, neglected hallway, searching for room 205. Reaching the designated door, they sensed someone inside and pushed it open to investigate. Inside, they discovered two other young men, a sight that visibly surprised Lucas's new companion. One introduced himself as Collins, the other as Sharp, informing them they were their new roommates. The white-haired young man stood in utter shock, a cold sweat breaking out on his brow at the unexpected situation. The room itself was in a deplorable state, filled with old furniture and heavily molded walls. Kai, disgusted by the filth, demanded to know what kind of infernal, grim room this truly was. Covering his face in revulsion, he declared the room was worse than any pigsty he had ever seen. A sudden startle at a spider made him turn to Lucas, asking if he seriously intended to stay in such a dirty place. The other roommates exchanged glances, assuming Kai was a rich, spoiled boy with an evident fear of germs. In response, Kai produced a gleaming gold coin from his pocket, holding it firmly in his palm. The eyes of the other two young men widened, fixed on the coin with expressions of pure greed and fierce determination. Kai offered the coin to whoever would clean the room, a casual gesture that shocked Lucas, realizing it was easily a month's salary. As the others began to clean, Lucas reflected that he had received no warning about living in what amounted to a garbage dump. His roommate attempted to cheer him, insisting things would improve, but Lucas remained deeply skeptical. The white-haired young man continued his stream of complaints, likening the room to a dismal prison cell. Lucas warned Kai to be cautious, suggesting the student council might take action if his complaints were overheard. After considerable effort, the dormitory building's exterior finally presented a somewhat more respectable appearance. Inside, the room was now sparkling clean, a transformation that left the two young men highly pleased. With a triumphant smile, Kai handed over the reward, declaring that as their roommate, he would ensure their protection. The other two marveled at the generous reward, and Lucas, too, held his newfound coin. Lucas mused that despite his roommate's arrogance, his unexpected generosity made it difficult to truly dislike him. A knock at the door then announced the dorm staff member, there to deliver their academy uniforms. He informed them the entrance ceremony was about to begin, urging them to change quickly. Kai, appalled by the tattered uniform, complained loudly that wearing it would make him look like a beggar. Lucas then mentioned the school's request system, designed for improving student treatment. He suggested they might even be able to request a new, undamaged uniform through this system. At this, Kai excitedly leaped out the window, heading straight for the hall, a display of eagerness Lucas found incredibly naive. The scene shifted to the academy's main hall, dominated by a large statue of a witch at its front. Now dressed in his uniform, Lucas walked with confidence toward the ceremony hall. His determined expression clearly showed he was ready for any challenge the academy might present. He then stepped into the immense hall, already bustling with students gathered for the entrance ceremony. His roommates found the hall luxurious, though Kai, ever boastful, claimed his own house was far more impressive. Lucas scanned the crowd for his sister, and Kai pointed toward the front, explaining that was where the elite students sat. There at the front sat Julia, resplendent in the beautiful white and gold uniform of the elite class. His roommate then informed him their department's assigned seats were located at the very back of the hall. With a quiet smile, Lucas stated he didn't mind, remarking instead that the elite uniform suited Julia perfectly. Other students from their department grumbled about the distant seating, feeling a sense of discrimination. A girl seated beside Lucas also seemed displeased with the arrangement, observing everything in quiet silence. Suddenly, the hall's numerous candles ignited with magical golden flames, instantly capturing everyone's attention. Following this, a massive lotus flower crafted from fire materialized in the hall's center, a dazzling display of power. A hand reached out grasping a small flower of fire, demonstrating impressive magical mastery. Floating in the air, a young man declared that all new students should feel honored by his very presence. He introduced himself as Theodore Fallam, president of the student council and a future great mage, announcing his intention to explain the academy's point system. The female students in the hall were completely captivated, commenting on his powerful aura. They hailed him as a genius, a level 6 mage, while Lucas merely observed the spectacle. Theodore began his speech, explaining the point system formed the very foundation of everything within the academy. He stated that any resource, from rare books to even magical beasts, could be acquired using these points. However, he noted that points earned through ordinary work were minimal, yielding at most 5 per hour. For this reason, he explained, it was far more efficient to earn points by participating in departmental events. Lucas then understood Mina's unexpected friendliness toward them before the entrance ceremony. The president then revealed his council position, granted him a monthly income of up to 500 points. Finally, he alluded to one last method for acquiring points, though it involved a certain degree of risk. With a sinister smile and eyes glowing purple, he revealed the final method, monster hunting. He explained that behind the school lay a mountain range teeming with magical beasts, ripe for hunting. Lucas clenched his fist, his interest undeniably piqued by the mention of the magical beast mountain range. A smile spread across Lucas's face, thinking that place was a training ground perfectly suited for his needs. Hours later, as night fully descended, the dormitory stood bathed in the soft glow of moonlight. Within, his roommate lay peacefully asleep in his bed. A tranquil incense stick burned steadily, its subtle fumes ensuring a deep and undisturbed slumber for all. Quietly, the young man slipped out of the dormitory, his path set towards the distant magical beast mountain range. He remembered the martial arts building, situated at the campus's rear, quite close to where he intended to go. Soon enough, he reached a towering wall, fully aware that the mountain range began on the other side. He crouched low, gathering his strength for an impressive leap. In a blur of motion, the martial artist soared effortlessly over the formidable barrier. He cleared the wall, landing softly amidst the trees on the campus's wilder edge. The moment his feet touched the ground, shadowy creatures erupted from the darkness, attacking without a moment's warning. Our hero swiftly dodged the assault, then leaped to deliver a powerful kick to a monstrous purple frog. The sheer speed and strength of the young martial artist clearly took the creature by surprise. With a precise, concentrated strike, he shattered the monster's horn. The impact was immense, the horn fragmenting into a shower of debris followed by a concussive blast. Thrown to the ground, the giant frog lay motionless, vanquished by the protagonist's might. The young man then carefully removed the creature's horn, a valuable item he could trade for points at the academy. He gazed down at the giant black-horned frog, now still on the dark forest floor. He knew these horns were venomous, yet highly prized for crafting potent magic potions. He needed those points to acquire the legendary tomes once wielded by the martial god in his epic battles. He surveyed the vast mountain range, understanding he needed to swiftly locate more creatures. With a focused breath, the young man activated an ability, and his eye began to glow with a brilliant golden light. Ripples of golden energy fanned out through the trees, meticulously scanning the surrounding area for any hidden beasts. His senses soon pinpointed a monster, a creature with a massive, drooling maw filled with razor-sharp teeth. It was a level 1 giant rat, its red eyes burning, its back bristling with sharp spines. Without hesitation, our protagonist lunged forward, striking the creature with a powerful, decisive hand chop. With a cold gaze, the young man simply uttered, "Go to sleep," and the creature was instantly defeated. Immediately, a level 2 bat swooped to attack, but he felled it with a single, decisive punch. Next, he confronted a level 3 magic panther, effortlessly displaying his exceptional combat prowess. A series of concussive blasts echoed through the forest as the young man systematically defeated every monster he encountered. A satisfied smile touched his lips. He had gathered a wealth of materials useful for both elixirs and academy points. Carrying a now heavy sack, he noticed an unnerving silence had fallen over the forest, a quiet too profound for his liking. He touched the earth, discerning the near absence of any other magical beast traces. He mused if this eerie quiet hinted at a formidable creature residing somewhere nearby. To confirm his suspicion, the young man sat, extending his perception to sense the energy around him. His activated ability guided him down an unusual path, deeper into the silent, shadowed woods. The path culminated at the entrance of a dark cave, from which a palpable, powerful energy emanated. From the cave's oppressive darkness, a giant wolf with glowing purple eyes snarled menacingly at our hero. The protagonist remained unfazed, a confident smile gracing his face as he declared he had finally found his true target. The creature launched an attack from afar, which he deftly dodged, realizing it had sensed his presence from a full kilometer away. A strange bluish smoke began to seep from the cave's entrance, further signaling the creature's imminent arrival. A massive wolf with stark white fur and fiery red paws emerged, confronting our protagonist head-on. It was a level 6 fire and ice wolf, and it snarled, its glowing purple eyes fixed on the young man. The young man now understood the creature's fierce territoriality and, with a smile, readied himself for the ensuing battle. Fearlessly, our hero advanced, moving toward the giant wolf to commence the battle without delay. With an excited grin, he metaphorically invited the creature to dance, preparing for his opening strike. He landed a powerful punch squarely on the wolf's paw, yet the massive beast seemed to register no pain at all. The wolf retaliated instantly, unleashing a blast of frigid ice from its mouth, aimed directly at the protagonist. But the young man swiftly shielded himself, blocking the icy assault with his hand. The creature showed astonishment, witnessing its own elemental power seemingly deflected and turned by the young man. Seizing the opportune moment, the young man delivered an ice-infused punch directly to the giant wolf's eye. With his other hand, he then pummeled the creature's head, delivering a rapid series of chilling blows. The wolf lashed out with its powerful tail, but our hero managed to block the strike with his forearms. The young man expressed a slight regret at not having trained harder, believing he could have severed the creature's leg with that last blow. He then challenged the wolf, questioning if it had already grown weary of their clash, urging it to rise. Wounded, the giant wolf painfully rose to its feet, preparing to unleash its other elemental power. It opened its maw wide and unleashed a potent fireball directly at our protagonist. The young man deftly dodged the fiery projectile, which then slammed into the cave entrance, igniting an explosion. The creature followed up, launching a continuous scorching stream of fire at the young martial artist. The intense fiery assault bathed the entire forest in an orange glow, forcing our protagonist into swift, agile evasions. The wolf became entirely engulfed in flames, its form a terrifying spectacle as it prepared a devastating final attack. With a guttural howl, the creature unleashed the full, unbridled force of its firepower upon our protagonist. Yet the young man managed to close the distance, grappling with the wolf, enduring the searing flames. The creature was clearly taken aback by the young man's audacious courage, seemingly unable to comprehend how he withstood such intense heat. His fist now glowing with radiant golden energy, the martial artist prepared his decisive counterattack. He then delivered a mighty, concentrated punch to the wolf's chin. The blow was so immense that the creature's jaw was visibly damaged by the sheer force of the impact. Following up, the protagonist unleashed a final blast of golden energy, bringing the battle to a swift conclusion. The wolf was struck squarely, sent hurtling backward to slam violently into the cave wall by the sheer force of the attack. Lying on the ground, the young man found himself impressed by the creature's profound mastery over both fire and ice. The creature lay utterly defeated, whimpering in pain on the ground, all strength drained from its massive form. In its eye, a distinct yin-yang symbol materialized, a clear reflection of its innate dual nature of fire and ice. His own eyes glowing, the young man mused that this was indeed an incredibly rare and potent magical beast. With a decisive move, he seized the wolf by its neck, asserting immediate control over the struggling beast. The creature seemed to yield, though a subtle aura of fire and ice still wisped from its maw. Suddenly, it unleashed twin blasts of fire and ice, crashing them together. The elements collided in a massive cloud of steam, leaving the young man to ponder the unfolding chaos. From within the swirling smoke, a blade of golden energy shot forth, targeting the giant wolf. The beast narrowly evaded the strike, scrambling up the cave wall to escape its path. Wounded, the giant wolf fled deeper into the cave, desperate to escape the relentless fight. But the protagonist gave chase, vowing that escape was not an option for the creature. He lunged, snatching the wolf's tail and halting its desperate flight. In an instant, the young man caught the beast and slammed it hard against the cave wall. The wolf hit the ground with a heavy thud, and the hero readied himself for the next assault. The young man mused that battling such a colossal magical beast was highly entertaining, surely promising many points. Suddenly, he noticed the creature had risen, poised for another confrontation. The wolf then coiled into a ball of fur, hurtling toward the young man with full force. Our hero deftly dodged, and the wolf crashed headlong into the cave wall. The creature spun, unleashing a massive blast of fire in an attempt to engulf the young man. The protagonist leaped, evading the attack, a chilling realization dawning that this was shadow fire. The creature launched a combined assault, striking with shadow fire from one side and ice from the other. The young man dodged again, then descended with a powerful punch, intending to end the struggle for good. He channeled all his energy, focusing it into a single, decisive punch. A massive explosion of golden light erupted, and the very floor of the cave began to tremble violently. The creature bit down hard, and for a moment, the young man wondered if this was truly his end. With no other choice, he decided to unleash his last resort for survival. Suddenly, the wolf lunged, its giant red paws aiming to crush him in a single, devastating blow. The protagonist's expression turned grim as he prepared to unleash one of his most potent techniques. The giant wolf then charged, initiating the final thunderous clash. The wolf then revealed two glowing magic cores to the protagonist, one of fire and one of ice. The young man wondered if these were beast cores, struck by the unexpected sight. He recalled tales of beasts born with such cores, housing all their immense magical power. A sudden realization struck the young man. If his blood touched the cores, the creature would become his loyal servant. With a confident smile, the martial artist accepted the creature's silent offer, claiming it as his subordinate. He considered this an unexpected windfall, knowing few, if any, mages commanded a beast of this caliber. Still, a thread of suspicion lingered. Powerful beasts rarely submitted to humans so readily. He sliced his finger, allowing a drop of his blood to fall onto the two magic cores. The blood spread across the cores, and an intense light began to illuminate the cavern. The wolf, still kneeling, then swallowed both cores. The cores fused within the creature's body, and it began to transform. The protagonist then heard a voice in his mind, realizing it was the wolf, addressing him as master. Confusion clouded the young man's face. He couldn't fathom how he was hearing the creature's thoughts. He suddenly understood that he could comprehend the creature's every thought, leaving him utterly taken aback. The martial artist then bestowed upon it the name El, which the wolf joyfully accepted. The young man wondered if the wolf's territory was now his, and if hidden treasures might lie within. With an intelligent gaze, the creature seemed to perceive its new master's thoughts. The wolf nudged him with its snout, as if in silent agreement with his unspoken idea. It then beckoned him to follow, indicating it would lead him to its hidden treasures. El then led him deeper through the dark cave toward its secret treasure stash. As El guided him, the young man noticed a strange, pervasive odor emanating from bats clinging to the ceiling. The protagonist instinctively covered his nose, trying to block out the potent smell permeating the cave air. They arrived at a treasure hoard filled with monkey bones and glistening rare precious gems. At the sight of such a vast collection, the young man's jaw dropped, convinced he had stumbled upon paradise. But El communicated that this was not its true treasure, beckoning him to see what truly mattered. The wolf then revealed a collection of beast cores, including several level 3 and 2 precious level 6. The creature explained that it had consumed all the water and fire cores it could find, tirelessly seeking to grow stronger. The young man realized El had defeated two formidable opponents of its own strength, and he was deeply impressed. As a reward, the martial artist offered an elixir, which the wolf consumed with visible delight. After drinking the elixir, golden energy suffused the creature, and it visibly brightened, feeling much better. The young man explained it was a healing potion, instructing El to recover and guard the treasure. The creature accepted its first mission with a proud mental declaration, assuring its master to leave everything to it. The protagonist then prepared for his next move, a powerful new ally now at his side. A confident smile touched his lips. The young man seemed to be plotting something grand for his future at the academy. The scene then shifted to the academy's classroom building, early the following morning. The young man entered the classroom and settled into his seat for the day's first lesson. He yawned, mentioning he'd been awake all night, yet felt no fatigue thanks to an inherent sense. The young man quietly grumbled that El had persistently pestered him while he tried to count his newfound treasures. A clock on the wall began to chime, signaling the imminent start of class. The classroom blackboard stood ready as the students quietly awaited their professor's arrival. A murmur of wonder spread amongst the students. The professor should have already been in the room. Kai grew anxious, fretting that the administration had forgotten to assign a professor to their class. Suddenly footsteps echoed, and a man stumbled into the room, swaying unsteadily. The man kicked a liquor bottle, grumbling aloud about having drunk too much the night before. He then slammed his book onto the desk with a jolt, startling every student in the room. The protagonist and his roommate exchanged wide-eyed glances, shocked by the new professor's dramatic entrance. The man introduced himself as Sugarart, declaring his responsibility over the martial arts department. The young man observed the professor intently, sensing immediately that this was no ordinary man. With steady hands, Sugarrat penned his name onto the blackboard in white chalk. A quiet yawn escaped him as he picked up a book, ready to commence the day's first lesson. Our hero's roommate, however, was visibly appalled by the professor's appearance, beads of nervous sweat forming on his brow. He found it impossible to believe this seemingly disabled man could be their martial arts instructor. Suddenly, the professor launched a piece of chalk, striking Kai directly on the forehead and sending him stumbling back. Kai rubbed his aching head, bewildered by the professor's sudden, unprovoked attack. Our hero, while initially surprised, quickly recognized the professor's swift movement as the mark of a highly skilled individual. He surmised that Sugarat must be at least a level 5 or level 6 martial artist. The professor then sternly instructed them not to speak without permission, before beginning to call attendance. He called for Tishi, and the girl promptly raised her hand, acknowledging her presence. Next, our protagonist's name was called, and he too raised his hand and answered. When the professor called for Collins, our hero had a fleeting memory of seeing the girl somewhere before. Professor Sugarat then announced he had forgotten the textbooks, appointing Tishi as the class representative to retrieve them. The girl was taken aback by the unexpected appointment, questioning if he could truly be serious. With a determined gaze, the professor confirmed his seriousness, leaving no room for doubt. Kai rose to his feet, protesting that the representative should be chosen fairly through a competition. He then began to boast of his family's prestige and his own formidable skills, declaring himself the most qualified for the position. Before he could finish his declaration, the professor struck him again, a piece of chalk finding its mark on his forehead. With a faint glow emanating from his fingertips, Sugat revealed he was the one who had thrown the chalk at the white-haired young man. He sternly reminded Kai not to speak without permission, then forcefully snapped the chalk in his hand. The professor dispatched Tishi to fetch the books and instructed the rest of the class to study independently. The girl felt a surge of pleasure at the opportunity, determined to seize this chance to alter her destiny. Kai grumbled about the pain, muttering insults about the professor, while our protagonist observed him thoughtfully. Our hero's gaze sharpened. He suspected the professor had sustained a severe injury, judging by his movements. Sugarat met his gaze with a glare, prompting the protagonist to wonder just how powerful the man had been before his injury. The young man then stated he had no complaints, earning him Kai's accusation of being a coward for not speaking his mind. A few hours later, the scene shifted to the bustling front of the Magic Academy's dining hall. The two friends walked together, Kai lamenting that their professor had forced them into hours of self-study. Suddenly, the protagonist's sister appeared, calling out his name with an excited smile. The young man affectionately patted his sister's head, asking about her first class. She enthusiastically shared that her teacher, Linda, was incredibly kind, and had even encouraged her to become class representative. The girl then asked if her brother had been chosen as his department's representative. With a gentle smile, our protagonist informed his sister that he had not been chosen this time. The young man then invited everyone to lunch, and Julia in particular grew excited at the prospect of eating. At the academy, meals were purchased using points, with the exchange rate differing for each department. Their dining hall table was soon laden with a feast of delicious food, including cakes and an array of sweets. Julia ate happily, even offering some of her food to her brother, who smiled warmly beside her. Meanwhile, Kai's face was a mask of pure shock and despair, unable to comprehend what he witnessed. He cried out, lamenting that the elite class received 100 points for single coin, while their own meager earnings yielded only 10. A staff member then loudly admonished a student, telling him to leave if he had an issue with the rules. The woman declared that students lacking talent must simply work harder. Kai felt as though his fundamental rights had been stripped away. With a kind smile, Julia offered Kai some of her food, attempting to lift his spirits. The young man wept with emotion, declaring her kindness, while Lucas found his reaction a touch overly dramatic. As the group ate, slow, silent footsteps approached from behind them. It was Maya, the white-haired girl they had rescued, who greeted them with a gentle smile. Julia invited her to join them, but Maya politely declined, explaining she had already eaten, and instead offered them cookies as a thank you. The little girl was delighted by the cookies, thanking her new friend for the delicious gift. Our hero sampled a cookie, complimenting Maya that she was an excellent baker. The white-haired girl became shy, a faint blush rising to her cheeks at the protagonist's praise. Kai then approached, asking the young man for a cookie which he shared with his new friend. He introduced himself, and the protagonist inwardly panicked, realizing he could not let Kai discover she was his ex-fiancée. With a polite farewell, the young woman departed, Julia watching her go with a warm smile. The protagonist stifled a yawn, musing that the dining hall was a particularly inconvenient place to encounter acquaintances. Just then, Mina from the student council approached their table, inquiring if they were enjoying their meal. She leaned in, whispering the young man's name with an awkward, shy tone. Suddenly, Theodore, the council president, floated past them, propelled by fire magic, impressing all who watched. The young man clapped sarcastically, and our hero internally noted what a massive show-off Theodore was for using magic indoors. Alone, Theodore secretly drank a potion, muttering about nearly losing control of his level 6 magic. The protagonist ate a sweet, recalling how he had overheard the president muttering to himself after the ceremony. At that moment, Professor Sugar walked past their table, accidentally knocking over a bottle. Lucas, noticing the movement, paid close attention to what the man was doing in the dining hall. The master then exited the dining hall, still drinking, leaving the young man to wonder where he was going. The professor continued to drink from his bottle, his face etched with deep sorrow. He then staggered toward a very tall and imposing clock tower. Stumbling, the man fumbled with the door, struggling greatly to open it. Two men observed him. "Is Sugarat the last to arrive at the meeting yet again?" one asked. The other remarked that he couldn't be blamed after what had transpired, his companion sighing in lament. Inside the meeting room, the professor stretched and yawned, looking utterly exhausted. A blonde woman glared at him, her expression serious and disapproving of his behavior. She then closed her eyes, seemingly sighing with exasperation at her colleague's persistent attitude. An older man announced that everyone had arrived, and the meeting could finally commence. He then revealed the day's agenda, the Academy's magical beast taming tournament. The director stressed the vital importance of taming multiple beasts for survival within the Empire's borders. This understanding led to an annual tournament, for which more than 2,000 level 1 beasts had already been readied. Amidst discussions, a man in a green suit put forth a suggestion: exclude the martial arts students from the upcoming tournament. Sugarat's hand slammed down on the table, his face reflecting fury at what he perceived as a prejudiced suggestion from his fellow professor. With a furious glare, the master of martial arts vehemently opposed the notion, rising to defend his students' right to participate. The blonde woman then sided with Sugarat, asserting that every student, without exception, must take part in the event. Other professors concurred, emphasizing that all students deserve to be treated with absolute equality. The man in the green suit found himself bewildered, unable to grasp why everyone seemed to align with Sugarat and Linda. He pondered if they still clung to the belief that the martial arts professor was a level 8 powerhouse. Nevertheless, he relented, declaring that the martial arts students could participate if they truly insisted. The director then brought the discussion to a close, announcing that the martial arts department would indeed participate. After the meeting concluded, the man in the green suit departed the room, with other professors following close behind. One professor turned to Linda, questioning her certainty in the decision to support Master Sugarat. They acknowledged that martial arts involved combat, yet felt the upcoming tournament might prove too demanding for those students. A confident smile played on the blonde woman's lips, suggesting she held a specific plan for the students. She then recalled words spoken to her long ago, her gaze drifting thoughtfully towards the window. Sugarat's voice echoed in her mind, a profound statement. A coward unable to overcome adversity had no right to claim the title of martial artist. Back in the classroom, the professor announced that the tournament, now open to all, would commence in 6 days. He further informed them that a practical combat training session awaited them outside after class. With a determined look, Sugarat vowed to ensure every single one of his students could defeat a beast. Kai grumbled, asserting that the tournament was merely for selecting a representative, making their collective participation entirely unnecessary. Another student quickly silenced Kai, while our protagonist mused that Kai seemed perpetually intent on provoking the professor. The young man considered the imminent combat training, resolving to be careful not to use excessive force. Outside, the martial arts students had already commenced sparring, their forms clashing in practice. A female student struck a wooden pillar with a powerful kick, demonstrating both impressive force and refined skill. With a determined expression, Tishi showcased her prowess, proving herself to be among the strongest students in the department. Our protagonist observed, noting that all his peers were quite skilled, certainly not lacking in ability. He realized the professor possessed a keen eye, for Tishi was indeed the strongest in the class, surpassed only by himself. The young man then joined the training session, swiftly defeating his opponent with a precise blow. After hours of intense training, Professor Shagard announced the conclusion of the day's session. Kai collapsed to the ground, utterly exhausted, yet celebrating the welcome end of the rigorous training. His roommates announced their departure for the dining hall, promising to return with food for him. The white-haired young man explained that he had struck a deal with Collins to accrue additional points. One of the roommates expressed annoyance at not being privy to the deal, prompting an apology from Kai. Our protagonist reflected that Collins was indeed clever, devising such deals to earn extra funds. Kai then rose, proceeding to brag about his intelligence to our hero once they were outside. He told the young man he should learn from his example, even offering the lesson free of charge. But the protagonist placed a firm hand on Kai's shoulder, a grip that clearly conveyed his disinterest in the offer. With a polite smile, he declined, leaving Kai feeling a touch awkward at his friend's quick refusal. The white-haired young man then grumbled that the protagonist had no need for points, owing to his sister's provisions. Night descended, and a slender crescent moon cast its glow over the magical Beast Mountain range. The protagonist mused that Kai was mistaken. He did not in fact need his sister to provide for him. He wiped the corner of his mouth, stating he had all the bounty of nature readily at his disposal. With his new ally faithfully by his side, he prepared for another night of hunting and rigorous training. The young man then roasted a generous piece of meat over a crackling campfire, intended for both himself and his new companion. He lamented having to take his sister home, feeling that time could be better spent on further training. The young man recalled Mina's persistent attempts to draw close to his sister, and resolved that he could not afford to lower his guard. With a determined look, he vowed that if her intentions were malicious, he would ensure she regretted them profoundly. His companion then wagged its tail, drawing its master's attention to the savory, roasting food. The wolf drooled, overwhelmed by the tantalizing smell of the meat, waiting anxiously for its share. With a smile, our hero offered the food to his new friend, who devoured it with unbridled joy. The young man reflected that, perhaps, having a tamed beast wasn't such a bad thing after all. He then told Elle that after they finished eating it would help him train, though he promised not to cause it harm. The night of training proved intense, and soon his companion realized its master's promise had not been entirely kept. Meanwhile, at the Ryan family mansion, a night stood calmly, peaceful under the soft glow of the moonlight. Our protagonist's mother, Catherine, sat alone in the moonlit garden, her expression steeped in sorrow. Her husband, Hall, then approached her from behind. He comforted her with a gentle hand on her shoulder, asking if she was thinking of their children. She admitted she could hide nothing from him. With a soft smile, the man remarked that their children's classes must surely have begun at Allen Academy by now. With tears glistening in her eyes, the woman appeared deeply worried for her children's well-being. Hall then offered to take her to visit the children, and the woman thanked him, a grateful smile blooming on her face. Tears of joy welled in her eyes. She was overjoyed at the prospect of soon reuniting with her children. The scene then shifted to the estate of Count Grindu, where a clandestine meeting was already in progress. A barefoot woman moved towards a gathering of hooded and masked individuals. The cult members observed her, their malicious smiles hidden by masks, their red eyes glowing eerily. The green-haired woman then greeted Jessica, expressing her distinct pleasure at her attendance. She then invited Jessica to take a seat and join the secret gathering of the mysterious cult. Cloaked and masked, Jessica, Jeremy's mother, appeared to be deeply entangled with this malevolent group. The cult leader then presented her latest creation, the Jade Dream, a highly potent potion. Jessica took a goblet of the dark beverage, preparing to sample the cult's new concoction. The leader then deliberately sliced her own arm, allowing drops of crimson blood to fall into the waiting goblets. The crimson liquid mingled with the drink, and the woman seemed to derive a strange pleasure from the self-inflicted pain. As a final touch, one of the cult members added a mysterious, unidentifiable ingredient to the drink. The woman then instructed everyone to partake in the beverage, and the cult members began to drink. The leader's bare feet touched the floor as she prepared to commence what she called the day's game. She declared the Jade Dream a miracle of alchemy, announcing that the game would now truly begin. Jessica held her goblet, her gaze fixed on the shifting red liquid, her expression pensive. The liquid within the goblet shifted autonomously, as if possessing a life of its own, and the woman prepared to drink. From the shadows, one of the women wondered aloud how an 11-year-old girl had managed to defeat the Black Wind group. The leader explained that Julia's power stemmed from inheriting the combined talents of both the Catherine and Miranda families. With a sinister smile, the cult leader remarked that a mere level 7 individual should never have been able to defeat them. She then bit Jessica's lip, questioning whether her son's efforts would, in the end, yield any fruit. With a finger beneath her chin, the woman asked if Jessica truly desired to eliminate Catherine and her daughter to become a baroness. Jessica agreed, then asked what steps she needed to take to achieve her goal and gain such power. With a satisfied smirk, the cult leader prepared to impart the necessary instructions. She then activated a spell with her fingers, and a shimmering purple magic circle materialized on the floor. With a sadistic gaze, the woman mused that the moment a young bud withered was, in truth, truly beautiful. The morning light found Tishi at the academy, announcing yet another combat training session. Groans of protest rose from other students, their bodies aching as they muttered about Professor Sugarrat being a monster. Tishi, however, urged them on, explaining that such pain was a necessary forge for strength, a trial they must endure. Amidst the complaints, Kai and our hero stood apart, claiming their bodies felt no pain, their resilience already remarkable. The white-haired young man, in a burst of confidence, then declared himself the strongest in their martial arts class. Our hero, however, knew better. This bravado was merely a lingering effect of the sleep incense he had employed the night before. Tishi watched the four, a quiet admiration in her gaze, acknowledging their impressive stamina for enduring such rigorous training. With the stage set, Kai stepped forward, ready to engage in combat training, preparing to spar against our protagonist. Kai launched a swift punch, but our hero easily sidestepped the attack, deflecting the blow with an open hand. The white-haired young man's eyes widened in surprise at his friend's defense, and he quickly readied his next move. Our protagonist seized the moment, countering with an open-hand strike that spoke volumes of his honed skill. His fist clenched, he braced himself, intent on revealing to Kai the true, formidable strength of a martial artist. A flurry of swift, precise punches followed, landing with undeniable impact upon Kai. Kai, a grin spreading across his face, complimented him, conceding that he was formidable in close-quarters combat. Our protagonist returned the smile, remarking that Kai himself was no less impressive. Unbeknownst to them, someone from a distance observed the martial arts students, their attention intently fixed on the spar. A subtle shift in the air, and the young man turned, sensing a gaze upon him from across the vast courtyard. A fixed gaze lingered, prompting him to wonder who could be observing him with such intensity. Beneath the shade of an ancient tree, an old man with long white hair sat in silent meditation. Our hero's thoughts drifted, contemplating if this silent elder was the source of the watchful eyes. Kai seized the momentary distraction, launching a punch that our protagonist, even then, easily evaded. Our hero then retaliated with a swift kick, sending Kai tumbling to the ground with a dull thud. Wounded but resolute, Kai rose, cautioning our protagonist not to avert his gaze, for the fight was far from over. The young man nodded, rising to meet the challenge, agreeing to continue their battle until a victor emerged. A quiet chuckle escaped the old man as he rose to depart, his observation of the students now complete. A woman approached, addressing him as Director Otani, and inquired if he was bound for the Academy's library. The director offered a smile, stating he was merely out for a stroll, remarking on the fascinating young man he had just witnessed. He perceived that our protagonist, in truth, was carefully concealing his formidable strength from everyone within the Academy walls. Director Otani decided then that he would remember the name Lucas, recognizing in him a truly promising talent. Hours later, as the class finally drew to a close, our protagonist found himself walking through the Academy's quiet hallways. His mind drifted back to the afternoon session, recalling Professor Sugarat's instruction on massage techniques. The lesson had been well received by the other students, its effects so profound that all muscle fatigue seemed to melt away. His academic duties fulfilled, the young man prepared to journey to a secret training ground, eager to continue his personal quest. To outfit his training ground, our protagonist resolved to acquire the necessary materials. He made his way to the Academy's magic materials shop, a place known for its rare and exclusive wares. The sheer size of the shop impressed the young man, a sprawling expanse akin to a grand shopping mall. Within these walls, everything was purchased with points. A high-quality training dummy alone demanded 30. While the selection was excellent, he mused, the prices were exorbitant, threatening to deplete his resources significantly. Relying on his sister was out of the question. The thought of her sacrificing her snack money filled him with guilt. Thus, he decided to purchase only the magic potion for now, planning to exchange his own materials for points later. At the counter, a clerk had dozed off, and our hero gently attempted to rouse her attention. The woman startled awake, an irritated expression crossing her face as she prepared to serve the new customer. The young man presented his academy card, politely requesting to purchase the magic bath potion. The clerk informed him the price was 5 points and moved to complete the transaction. His card glowed with a soft purple light as the number 5 materialized upon the magic sphere. The woman then registered that he was a martial arts student, a judgmental flicker in her eyes at his expenditure of points. With a polite smile, the young man thanked her for the purchase, and the clerk handed him a small bag of potions. She offered a piece of advice, urging him not to waste his points, but he simply replied that this wouldn't be enough. Annoyance flared in the clerk's eyes. She assumed him a spoiled noble, utterly oblivious to the true value of money. Grumbling under her breath about her disdain for nobles, she watched as our protagonist left the shop, completely unfazed. Back in his secluded hideout, the young man began preparations for his medicinal bath within the cave. He slipped into the tub of purple water, a sigh of relief escaping him as he savored the embrace of rest after a long day of training and classes. He mused that while the medicinal effect remained strong, it seemed a waste to simply discard the potent bathwater. A sudden noise broke the quiet, and he saw a pair of luminous purple eyes observing him from the encroaching darkness. Then a giant maw bristling with sharp teeth emerged from the shadows, letting out a low growl directed at our protagonist. Having concluded his bath, the young man set about collecting materials, intending to exchange them for academy points. Wisely, he chose to deal only in common level 2 materials, a discreet choice to avoid drawing undue notice. A sudden noise broke the quiet, prompting him to turn, curious about the commotion within the cave. To his astonishment, he discovered his companion eagerly lapping up the very water from his medicinal bath. Shocked, the young man confronted his servant, demanding an explanation for their unusual use of his bath water. A silent standoff ensued between master and servant, neither quite sure how to address the peculiar situation. Eventually, the young man relented, musing that perhaps the potent water would also serve to strengthen the wolf's physique. Thus, the matter of waste was resolved, and our hero turned his thoughts back to preparing for his imminent mission. He resolved to exchange the collected materials incrementally, aiming to remain inconspicuous. At the materials shop, the clerk offered a magical assist with his goods, an offer he politely declined. He found it advantageous that the clerk seemed to presume his family had supplied him with such an abundance of resources. The following day, Professor Sugarrat's patience wore thin, exasperated by his students' lack of serious preparation for the upcoming tournament. He bellowed, declaring that any unwilling to train could abandon their efforts and return home at once. With his customary strictness, the professor then began to meticulously correct the students' stances and postures. He critiqued Kai's feeble punch, to which the young man retorted that he had already bested his peers. With a mere flick, the professor sent Kai sprawling, our protagonist observing that the master always targeted the eyes. The professor then turned to the other three, questioning how they could possibly have fallen to such a seemingly weak opponent. A sigh escaped the professor's lips as he lamented the perpetual headache caused by spoiled noble students. He then commanded Tishi to spar with Kai, intent on teaching the white-haired young man a much-needed lesson. The two assumed their positions on the training field, poised for the impending confrontation. With an arrogant smirk, Kai boldly announced his intention to prove his superior skill. Tishi, her expression calm and confident, simply gestured for him to begin. The girl lunged forward, her powerful kick stirring up dust, a clear display of her formidable strength. In a flash, she unleashed a rapid succession of swift, precise kicks upon him. A wicked smile spread across Kai's face as he prepared to counterattack, certain of his own superiority. Yet Tishi proved swifter, landing a powerful punch to his chin that utterly disrupted his balance. She swiftly followed up with an elbow to the face, a testament to her honed combat technique. The girl then manifested a water ability, striking him with a concentrated blast of pressurized water. Stunned by her ability, Kai could scarcely believe she wielded magic. Tishi seized the momentary advantage, delivering a powerful kick to his face with all her might. Dazed by the impact, the white-haired young man let out a nervous, disbelieving laugh. He then warned her not to underestimate him, bracing himself to unleash his own skills. But Tishi was quicker still, landing a precise open palm strike directly to his chest. The blow's sheer force sent the young man flying through the air, only to land hard upon the ground. It was then that our protagonist truly grasped why the professor had selected Tishi as their representative. As our hero observed the unfolding scene, the professor's voice boomed, demanding everyone take their training seriously. Tishi then approached Kai, still sprawled on the ground, gently inquiring if he was all right after their bout. The professor, noticing Kai's irritation, announced that by tomorrow, everyone must confront a beast. He threatened expulsion for any who failed, leaving Kai utterly shocked by the abrupt declaration. The following day, as a final grueling exercise, the professor instructed them to fight with all their strength until nightfall. Lying defeated on the ground, Kai called out to our protagonist, his face etched with pure exhaustion. The young man offered advice, urging him to mend his poor habits and exploit his opponent's vulnerabilities. But Kai dismissed the counsel, confessing instead that he believed he had fallen for Tishi during their fight. He admitted to already envisioning names for their future children, prompting our hero to label him a masochist in his mind. The next day, the grand arena buzzed with anticipation as the tournament commenced, and the students were called to enter. Kai was overcome with dread at the prospect of facing the monsters, while our protagonist took a seat beside him. Two students from the magic class openly mocked them for sharing the same tournament grounds. Yet the professor sharply commanded silence, instructing them to instantly commit the tournament rules to memory. Our hero found himself surprised, witnessing the professor rise to defend the martial arts students. A thoughtful expression crossed his face as he realized his master might not be as harsh as he had first appeared. To ease Kai's apprehension, the young man then suggested imagining the beasts they would face were in fact their formidable professor. Kai's ears perked up at the suggestion, finding it a brilliant way to motivate himself for the upcoming battle. Their conversation, however, was not private. The professor overheard them, casting a glare filled with pure fury and irritation. The protagonist then reminded Kai that no beast could breach his defenses as long as his focus held firm. Suddenly, a man materialized on a holographic screen, ready to explain the tournament's intricate rules. He announced that taming 10 beasts would secure a perfect score, with a strict time limit of 10 minutes. Julia then heralded the tournament's commencement, summoning the first group of eager competitors to the arena. A soft pink light enveloped the arena, and Julia found herself swiftly transported into a space enclosed by an invisible barrier. Realizing she was in an entirely different location, she marveled at how such a confined space could house so many beasts. The girl then plunged into a dark expanse, where countless red eyes gleamed fixed upon her. From the shadows emerged several giant beavers, their sharp teeth bared, growling menacingly at the young girl. Staff firmly in hand, Julia braced herself, ready to confront the creatures with the full might of her magic. With a swift motion, she unleashed a bolt of purple lightning, declaring the capture of the small magical beasts. The lightning struck true, leaving the creatures paralyzed and helpless on the dark arena floor. The man on the screen elaborated, explaining that a purple smoke would emanate from any beast that submitted. This visual cue allowed professors to meticulously monitor each student's progress and assign scores with precision. One professor watched in utter shock, astonished by young Julia's incredible speed and efficiency in the tournament. The young girl completed her task with ease, earning a congratulatory nod from a professor as the next pair stepped forward. Her teacher, Linda, lauded her for finishing in a mere 3 minutes, to which Julia offered a happy thank you. The girl then inquired about the martial arts department's location, eager to watch her brother compete. Her teacher informed her that their department was scheduled last, so it would be a while before her brother's turn. As they waited, a mysterious woman observed the unfolding arena activity with keen, watchful interest. She mused, wondering if the protagonist could replicate his extraordinary feat from the entrance ceremony. 2 hours later, a student grumbled, lamenting his solitary point and fearing demotion from their class. Another student offered comfort, noting that, save for the elite, every mage had only managed a single point. Kai's desperation grew, a chilling doubt creeping in about their future in the martial arts department. Yet the protagonist calmly reassured him, asserting that they were no weaker than any of the mage classes. The professor cracked his knuckles, agreeing they were correct and should never underestimate their own strength. He elaborated that injuries were non-existent, as level 1 beasts simply lacked the capacity to harm humans. The master then asserted that in close-quarters combat, their prowess far surpassed that of low-level mages. The students looked surprised by this unexpected encouragement, prompting a grumble from the professor, annoyed by their bratty reaction. Tishi, their representative, confirmed her findings. No one had indeed sustained any injuries. She added that most mages were utterly exhausted, having depleted all their mana during the test. Tishi also disclosed that the arena was ingeniously equipped with barriers, preventing students from being overwhelmed. She then offered crucial advice: flee if victory was impossible and always manage their stamina wisely. The students erupted in grateful cheers, celebrating the invaluable tip, and the master inwardly approved of his representative choice. Suddenly, a man with a mocking smile interjected, claiming he'd overheard someone spying on his class. The newcomer settled into a seat, remarking coldly that without talent, only cowardly tricks remained. Sugarat addressed the man as Greg, who then announced he had come to inform them that their department was next. A sinister smile spread across his face as the man threatened to permanently shut down the martial arts department. The martial arts professor remained silent, his composure visibly shaken by the harsh threat. Greg pressed on, asserting that the department should never have been established at all. With a final taunting laugh, he turned and left, Master Sugar watching him disappear. Lucas, reminded of bullies from his past life, glared at the departing man with seething hatred. The protagonist rose to his feet, declaring that as the top student, he would be the first to enter. The professor inquired if he was nervous, offering to send another student in his stead. With a look of steely determination, our hero refused, insisting he would indeed go first. His eyes began to glow, and the protagonist declared he would enter the arena first, precisely as he had planned all along. With a newfound resolve, he pledged to secure a high score, silencing every voice that dared to doubt them. His classmates, seeing his determination, felt a surge of energy, their shouts echoing with the promise to prove their department's worth. Professor Shigard watched their transformation, remembering the fear that had gripped them only moments ago. The young men recalled Tishi's wisdom, while the master inwardly considered them a collection of simpletons. 10 minutes later, our hero sprinted through Arena 10, skillfully navigating a chaotic maze of monsters. His fist clenched, the young man readied himself, preparing to unleash his abilities upon the creatures. He spotted the magical perception circles, deciding to steer clear of them to remain undetected in battle. A blue aura rippled from him as he prepared to reveal his true power unseen by prying eyes. It was a known truth that a master could borrow a beast's abilities once their souls were profoundly linked. Meanwhile, in a distant cave, the wolf chewed idly on a bone, clearly bored by the current state of affairs. The creature pondered why its master would tap into its strength when he already possessed such immense power. Back in the arena, a colossal spectral blue wolf paw materialized, a clear display of his borrowed might. With that, the martial artist declared that overcoming the low-level magical beasts here was a simple task. Suddenly, a colossal, menacing owl appeared, soaring towards him with an intense, fierce gaze. The other creatures in the arena sensed the imminent danger, their panicked screeches urging everyone to flee from the high-level beast. The owl gathered crackling purple lightning in its talons, poised for a devastating strike. Then the creature soared at breathtaking speed across the arena, showcasing its remarkable agility. Yet our hero remained unshaken, preparing to meet the owl with his spectral blue wolf paw. He realized that to ease the path for the other students, he first needed to break this beast's will. The giant owl crashed to the ground, utterly dazed after being struck by the young man's powerful blow. He reasoned that the intimidating aura of a high-level beast would subdue the weaker creatures within the arena. At that, the creature bowed its head, a crimson aura of submission beginning to radiate from its form. A smile touched his lips as he accepted its submission, but he then declared his intent to tame every beast in the arena. He explained that he could not allow the visible signs of submission to escape beyond the barrier. The giant owl watched the young man, a flicker of confusion in its eyes as it tried to grasp his intentions. The protagonist turned, announcing his departure to seek out and tame the remaining beasts. Channeling the owl's subdued aura, he vanished, leaving the creature behind to screech that it never wished to see him again. Outside, the tournament scoreboard stubbornly displayed our hero's name with a discouraging 0 points. Kai grew desperate as time dwindled, but Julia urged him to stay calm, unwavering in her confidence that her brother would succeed. Professor Greg merely scoffed, his gaze fixed on the martial arts department's score. He then openly mocked them, pointing out that a score of 0 implied they couldn't even best the weakest beast. His students concurred, remarking that this clearly illustrated the stark difference between a martial artist and a mage. Professor Shigart remained silent, his gaze burning with intense anger directed at the other master. Julia, furious, shouted at him, demanding he cease mocking her brother, who she insisted was incredible even without magic. Greg felt a surge of irritation, inwardly believing the elite class was as misguided as Professor Linda for defending such a one. He then curtly informed the girl that the results were undeniable, leaving no room for further debate. Suddenly, the scoreboard flickered, revealing Lucas Ryan had earned his first point in the tournament. Kai and Tishi erupted in relieved celebration, for this meant he could remain within their department. Another professor scoffed at their celebration, proudly noting that the highest score in his own class was a solid 5. But to the man's utter astonishment, our protagonist's score continued its steady climb, relentlessly rising. As the score hit 5 points, Professor Greg's annoyance grew, fueled by the wild cheers erupting from the young man's classmates. The professor stared, unable to believe this department of so-called useless students had matched the score of his top pupil. Inside the arena, the young man had successfully intimidated every beast, thereby simplifying the scoring for his classmates. He then considered that all that remained was to achieve his perfect score and depart. With renewed purpose, the martial artist began taming all the creatures with astounding speed. One by one, the beasts fell subjugated beneath our protagonist's overwhelming power. Finally, he reached the 10th creature, and the formidable giant owl once more submitted to him. Witnessing the final result, Professor Greg was utterly stunned, a cold sweat breaking out on his brow. The scoreboard then flashed, announcing that Lucas Ryan had achieved 10 points, a perfect score in the tournament. His little sister overflowed with joy, her eyes shining as she exclaimed, "That's my brother." A collective gasp rippled through the stands. The other students could scarcely believe the martial arts department had achieved the maximum possible score. The young man gently patted Julia's head, and she looked up at him with shining eyes, affirming that she had always known he could accomplish such a feat. Suddenly, Professor Greg's voice boomed across the arena, declaring it impossible for a martial arts freshman to tame 10 formidable beasts. He then pointed an accusing finger at the young man, loudly claiming he must have used an impostor to take the test. Little Julia bristled with anger at the unfair accusation, but her brother remained perfectly calm, his expression unruffled by the unfolding drama. In an instant, an inspector seized Greg by the face, sternly stating that the protagonist had done nothing wrong. The inspector's gaze hardened as he challenged Greg, asking if he dared to insinuate that an official inspector would accept a bribe to permit cheating. Greg's face blanched with terror. He had completely forgotten about the inspectors and now understood that confronting them was a grave mistake. He stammered an apology, and the inspector, unfazed, announced he would investigate the barrier to get a definitive answer. Kai grumbled about the judging becoming a mockery, but the hero calmly advised him to settle down. With a confident smile, the young man stated plainly that he had nothing to hide from anyone at the academy. 10 minutes later, inside the arena, the giant creature was seen looking extremely frightened. The magical barrier then dissipated, and the other creatures looked towards the sudden light with surprise and confusion. They realized the powerful human had vanished, and the outside world was finally visible to them. With a piercing screech, the creature urged everyone to escape, and the beasts immediately bolted for freedom. However, one of the inspectors quickly raised his magic staff, preparing to intervene in their frantic escape. He then cast a powerful containment spell directly towards the fleeing creatures. The magic struck an old beast squarely, trapping it in the air with a shimmering rope of golden energy. The inspector observed that while agitated, the beasts were certainly not weak enough to have warranted replacement. One of the men then turned to his colleague, directly asking if he believed the student's scores were truly fair. The head inspector replied that he found no evidence of wrongdoing, though something undeniably strange had happened to the creatures. They decided to send all 10 beasts for a full inspection and resume the tournament without further delay. An announcement soon followed, confirming no problems had been found, and the next competitor was instructed to prepare. The protagonist found it intriguing that even without concrete proof, they still refused to fully believe in his abilities, yet he wore a confident look, appearing one step ahead of everyone at the academy. He glanced towards Tishi and his master, a knowing thought in his mind. The real surprise was yet to come. The scene then shifted to Tishi, who ran into the arena ready for her own test. With a determined look, the girl silently told herself that she absolutely could not lose to Lucas. Inside the barrier, the young woman confronted a fierce gray wolf and braced herself for battle. The girl lunged forward, delivering a swift sequence of powerful blows to the gray wolf with remarkable agility. She thought that if she couldn't defeat it within 30 seconds, she would change tactics and head straight for the gate. She then leaped onto the creature's back, continuing her assault, determined to finish it quickly. The wolf, however, suddenly caught the hero's scent and wondered if he was still somewhere in the arena. Tishi prepared another strike with her clenched fist, aiming to decisively end the battle. But to her great surprise, the creature instantly submitted, leaving the girl astonished by the wolf's unexpected reaction. She wondered how a level 3 shadow wolf could have submitted so easily and so quickly. The young woman became pensive, questioning if it was a mere coincidence or if there was something more at play. With a confident smile, she realized that perhaps her department was not so weak after all. With that newfound resolve, she moved on to the next creature, attacking it with a powerful punch to the face. Her score then rose rapidly as she defeated a giant boar with surprising ease. Kai cheered for her excitedly as her score continued to climb relentlessly on the scoreboard. The girl shouted with fierce determination, successfully taming her 6th creature in the academy tournament. A saber-toothed tiger was startled, and she swiftly reached 9 points in the arena. The final creature was defeated, and the young woman achieved the maximum score of 10 in the tournament. The scoreboard then brightly announced that Tishi Himaru had also achieved a perfect score of 10 points. Kai was stunned, commenting that she was even faster than the protagonist in her test. The girl then requested that these beasts also be sent for a detailed inspection. She reflected that perhaps the beasts were not so frightening, and that martial artists were not inherently weaker than others. The third match commenced, revealing another student swiftly overcoming a purple bat creature. With a beam of golden energy, the young man vanquished the beast, celebrating his hard-won victory. A triumphant smile spread across his face as he boasted of his perfect score of 10 in the tournament. Match 4 brought forth a green-haired youth who landed a powerful kick against a towering gorilla. A confident grin adorned his features as he too celebrated his flawless 10 points. Next, Kai entered the arena, striking a saber-toothed tiger with a potent, accurate punch to its face. The creature submitted, and the white-haired young man joyfully celebrated his triumph. He then offered a thumbs up, signaling that he too had achieved the maximum score. The scoreboard then illuminated, revealing an astonishing sight. Every martial arts student had achieved a perfect score. This monumental achievement propelled them directly to the top of the rankings, now tied with the esteemed elite class. Professor Sugarrat permitted himself a subtle, knowing smile, clearly beaming with pride for his students. Retrieving his flask, he took a long drink, appearing noticeably more relaxed and content. The subsequent inspection confirmed no issues with either the beasts or the tournament's protective barrier. Director Atani, however, pondered why the martial arts department's scores were so uniformly exceptional. An inspector theorized that the magical attacks from other students had simply frightened the beasts. The director countered, observing that the martial artists seemed to strike even greater fear into the creatures. With that assessment, he declared that next year, the martial arts department would compete first in the tournament. Professor Greg gasped in shock, realizing this decision cemented a tie with the elite for first place. Professor Sugarrat merely fixed Greg with a superior glare, a silent assertion of victory after the director's pronouncement. Calmly, the director inquired if Greg held any objection to the decision he had just made. Greg then challenged the fairness of it all, convinced their success was born purely of luck. The director replied that luck itself was a component of skill, leaving Greg stunned into silence. Another man concurred, emphasizing that the scores could not be discarded, as the students were blameless. With that, the director ordered the results announced, and Greg, seething with anger and frustration, conceded. Professor Greg watched Sugarrat and Linda depart, vowing to keep a vigilant eye on both of them. A furious expression twisted his features, clearly indicating he was already plotting against the rival department. After Greg's exit, the director and another man quietly discussed the tournament's unusual outcome. The man asserted that this matter touched upon the department's very existence, implying the director held crucial information. Director Atani stated he could not yet share the full details of what he knew regarding the situation. Yet he promised it was nothing detrimental to the school, resolving to feign ignorance for the time being. The scene then shifted to the bustling martial arts students' dormitory building at the academy. Kai celebrated his perfect score with gusto, exclaiming he needed to inform his father without delay. His roommates joined in the celebration, marveling at how much stronger they had all grown since the entrance exam. Our protagonist silently acknowledged that no one suspected him. His intricate plan had unfolded perfectly. Kai then inquired how they planned to spend the 20 bonus points earned for their first-place finish. One young man declared he would save his, adding that he still owed their hero a meal. Kai then offered the obvious solution: use the points to acquire materials for the following month's combat training. Our protagonist's interest was piqued, and he promptly asked about this upcoming combat training. They explained that the training would occur in Allen Tower, the Academy's official proving ground. Within its depths lay an illusory world, teeming with various races and beasts for students to confront. However, only 100 freshmen were permitted entry, with the 12 from the elite class having guaranteed spots. Kai's excitement surged, stating that with all of them scoring 10s, their entry into the tower training was assured. At that, his other classmates asked where he was headed, and the young man announced he was off to buy equipment. With that, the two dashed off, and our hero mused to himself that every martial artist harbored a deep yearning for greater strength. Sipping his tea, the young man reflected that ensuring everyone scored highly in the tournament had indeed been the correct decision. Kai then invited him to the materials shop, but our protagonist politely declined the offer. Suddenly, his roommate's gaze fixed, becoming hypnotized by a strange pendant dangling before him. Our hero revealed that Professor Sugarrat had given him the pendant, which he now wished to examine. Kai gazed at the pendant in Lucas's hand. "Isn't this only given to the top 3, those with perfect scores in the tournament?" he questioned. Kai admitted our hero was lucky that his turn came before Lady Tishi, or the pendant would have been hers. Lucas simply smirked. "Luck, it seems, is my greatest asset." Kai then told Lucas he was heading to the market to catch up with Alto and the others. With a wave, he bid our protagonist farewell. Meanwhile, in the bustling grounds, a crowd gathered before a massive scoreboard, its luminous display showing the recent tournament results. Students gasped in awe. The martial arts department had claimed first place, every single one of their participants achieving a perfect score. Frustration boiled over as a student angrily kicked their leg against a nearby pillar. It was Rila, a student of Professor Greg from the magic department, seething at their failure. For 3 consecutive years, victory should have been theirs. "My father prepared for 10 years, she muttered, and it all crumbled in a single day. Suddenly, a pink, ethereal dagger woven from magic zipped over Rila's head, aimed straight for the scoreboard. A new figure approached, grimacing. They took 20 slots for Aaron Tower. His expression darkened. Those slots, he declared, are meant for us magicians only. Another student tried to interject, mentioning the examiners found no cheating. The first guy dismissed him with a contemptuous wave. He then summoned his magical dagger back. The dagger flew back into his grasp. I heard, he whispered, the martial arts department bribed the teachers at the Magic Beast base. A brown-haired student chimed in. It's easy for Kai, a son of the wealthy Tare family, to arrange such things. A blue-haired man, radiating a faint energy as he adjusted his spectacles, confirmed, I did see one of the Tara young masters at the material shop earlier. This was Andre, another student of Greg's. He bought the last of the training equipment, Andre added. Using those extra points they get for bulk buying, he mused. Valuable materials will be out of stock for everyone else. Rila gripped her wand tighter. A sinister smile spread across her face. Shouldn't we, she purred, correct their speed of growth ourselves? Later, as dusk settled, a dagger flashed through the deepening forest. Rila's team had cornered 2 students from the martial arts department. One lay groaning, a fresh, gaping scar marring his back. His companion saw the wound was poisoned, realizing he needed to treat his friend immediately. If it's points you want, he pleaded with their attackers, I'll gladly give them to you. Without a word, Rila's magical vines lashed out, sending him flying. Another attacker froze his legs. The vines then brutally plunged into his chest, splattering blood everywhere. The student crumpled, crying out in agony. Rila stepped closer, telling him they didn't want points. The fallen student choked out, then what do you want? Rila advanced slowly. She produced a small red bottle. With a dark smile, she commanded, crawl back to martial arts like this. Tell everyone in your class that your lives are less than insects. Their pain screams echoed as the sun dipped below the horizon. Hours later, Lucas and Kai were frantically searching the forest for Alto and Dizio. Kai, less concerned, remarked, they're often late because of their part-time jobs, why so worried? Our hero's expression was grim. This time, he replied, it's different. He had never before detected such a strong scent of blood along this particular path. His eyes suddenly fixated on something. He bolted forward, leaving Kai in his dust. Kai followed, calling out, why the sudden rush? Behind a dense thicket, they found a hand. On closer inspection, Alto and Dizio lay there, grievously wounded. Who on earth could have done this? Kai whispered, horrified. Our protagonist knelt, gently lifting Alto. Alto, barely conscious, rasped it was Rila from Greg's class. She severed my meridians, he managed, before succumbing to unconsciousness. At these words, a profound rage consumed our protagonist. His face became expressionless, and his body began to glow with a fierce blue aura. Alto and Kai's cry ripped through the air. Our hero quickly reassured him, calm down, Alto is alive, just unconscious. Skillfully, he pressed Alto's pressure points, stemming the blood flow, then directed Kai, find the medicine quickly. Without a word, Kai dashed away, a blur of motion. As he tended to them, a chilling realization struck our protagonist. Both Alto's and Dizio's bones were shattered. This was the infamous bone-crushing art, a brutal technique favored by black market assassins. A clenched fist slammed against the ground. To use such a cruel technique on his teammates, the thought boiled his blood. This wasn't bullying, it was attempted murder. His face darkened, shadowed by fury. From Dizio, a pained whisper escaped, Father, Mother, it hurts. Our hero's eyes snapped to him. Don't worry, he vowed softly, I will avenge you. As he gently propped Dizio against a nearby tree, Kai reappeared, Tishi close behind. Tishi's voice was urgent, how are Alto and Dizio? He calmly explained, their lives aren't in danger, but they'll need several days to recover. Handing the medicine to Lucas, Kai added, it's all thanks to you for the first aid. I'm going to the student council tomorrow to complain, Tishi declared, her anger palpable. Lucas, his teeth clenched, simply told her don't. Tishi recoiled, surprised. Lucas, our hero, radiated an intense pressure, utterly unlike his usual demeanor. With a grim, serious expression, Lucas declared, I will get revenge for this grievance. Later, in the solemn student council room, the student council head began, so you wish to challenge student from Mr. Greg's class to a duel, correct? Standing before him, our hero Tishi and Kai affirmed, yes, if we win we demand an apology from the attackers, if they win I will offer an S-rank item. The head then questioned, do you have proof that students from Greg's class were responsible? He gestured towards an item, and is this the S-rank item you wish to wager? With a seemingly careless flick, he let it slip from his grasp. My apologies, he murmured, my hand slipped. Then his voice hardening, he added, for such a major event this item is rather cheap. His eyes darkened, lost in thought. An S-rank item is priceless, Kai retorted, bristling. Our hero, however, stopped him. Turning to the council head with a grim expression, he asked, then what would be appropriate? The council head pondered for a moment. I think something unique to the school would be best. Ah, right, for example. With a sinister expression, he continued, the qualification for entry to the Aaron Tower. How about this? The losing side permanently forfeits their qualification for entry into the Aaron Tower. Our hero agreed instantly, a faint smile playing on his lips. The duel was set for 2 days later, instantly capturing the attention of the entire student body. Students disgruntled by the martial arts department's dominance cheered for Greg's students, while Greg himself seemed pleased by his students' malicious actions. Sugarrat, on the other hand, offered no comment. Instead, he simply intensified the practical combat training for his own martial arts students. 2 days swiftly passed, bringing the day of the duel. The arena hummed with a massive, expectant crowd. 3 students were selected from each department to face off in individual matches. Rila, with a shady smile, leaned into our hero. Apologize now and perhaps I'll forgive you. Our hero merely replied, you don't know how this battle will turn out. The referee's announcement echoed, let the duel begin. Kai stepped forward, facing off against Andre, a magician with spectacles. Kai launched himself at the magician, dagger clutched tightly, moving with full force. In response, Andre swiftly summoned multiple magic circles, conjuring a flurry of ice shards in the air. He unleashed the deadly shards towards Kai. But to Andre's surprise, Kai deflected every single one. Deflecting the final shard, Kai declared, is that all you've got? Andre adjusted his spectacles, a glint of cunning in his eyes. He mused inwardly that his foolish adversary had walked right into his trap, oblivious to their fate. Suddenly, a chilling sensation ran through Kai. He glanced down to find the ground around him encrusted with fallen ice shards, his legs now encased and immobile. Andre advanced, a smug smile playing on his lips, declaring there was no escape. Raising his wand, Andre conjured multiple magic circles, striking a cool pose as he touched his glasses. Farewell, little noble boy, he sneered. Kai braced himself, ready to face the imminent assault. Andre unleashed a barrage of sharp icicles upon the trapped Kai. Drops of blood splattered onto the frozen ground. Andre observed the outcome, a look of satisfaction on his face. This is what happens when you provoke a magician, he declared. Kai hung limp against the icy mountain, a faint murmur escaping his lips. Andre closed in, demanding to know if Kai intended to surrender and to speak louder if so. From the sidelines, Rila scoffed, a weakling remains a weakling. She cast a sidelong glance at Lucas, urging him to concede defeat. Lucas, his face darkened, curtly told Rila to be silent. The sudden intensity from Lucas visibly startled Rila. With a dark smile, Kai produced an orb of molten lava, challenging Andre. Can your ice magic truly freeze lava from the treacherous Beat Mountain range? Rila, in a frantic panic, shouted for Andre to retreat, warning of the danger. But it was already too late. A tremendous explosion rocked the center of the stage. Andre slid backward, emerging from the dense smoke. A bead of sweat trickled down Andre's face as he wondered if Kai was insane, detonating a lava slime jelly so close to himself. Did he have no regard for his own life? From the dissipating smoke, Kai appeared directly behind Andre, his eyes blazing crimson. Andre spun around swiftly to defend, but Kai was faster, plunging a dagger into him. Andre grunted in agony as blood splattered. Andre stumbled backward, desperately trying to create space. Onlookers gasped in horror, noticing Kai's legs were severely burned. Kai had willingly sacrificed his own legs to shatter the ice prison, a testament to his insane resolve. With tears in his eyes, Kai grinned, recalling Lucas's words, once you shatter the spell he's so proud of, the opening is yours. Andre, still grunting in pain, muttered in disbelief that a mere martial artist could wound him. Annoyed, Andre launched another attack, confident Kai, being wounded, couldn't possibly dodge. But to Andre's astonishment, Kai produced yet another lava slime. He detonated it behind his own back, triggering another massive explosion. The force propelled Kai forward like a projectile dagger clenched in hand, directly at Andre. Andre's ice magic struck Kai's hand, instantly freezing it. Yet Kai seemed utterly unaffected, his expression growing even more ferocious. A flicker of fear crossed Andre's face as he frantically told Kai to keep his distance. Kai closed the gap, delivering a brutal headbutt to Andre. Andre's glasses shattered and blood welled from his face. Andre was sent flying backward, bouncing several times before finally coming to a stop. He lay still against a rock, utterly unable to move. The referee stepped forward, announcing the result and declaring Kai the victor of the first match. Kai, claiming to be in peak condition, accepted a recovery medicine from Lucas. Lucas, meanwhile, inwardly mused that this peak condition was likely due to the power enhancement potion he'd secretly added to Kai's breakfast. Kai's thoughts then turned to Tishi, wondering if she would fare well against her opponent. With the first match concluded, Tishi now stepped forward to face her own adversary. Tishi stretched an arm, the crowd's murmurs reaching her ears. They whispered that Andre had held back against Kai, attributing it to Kai's prominent Terry lineage. Tishi's eyes narrowed, a thought brewing. They simply refused to acknowledge a martial artist's triumph over a magician. Suddenly, a volley of projectiles launched toward Tishi, which she narrowly evaded with a quick dodge. These projectiles were seeds, fired from the assailant's vine-like hands. Tishi knew instantly that a direct hit would have shattered her into countless fragments. Rila unleashed a barrage of razor-sharp vines, lashing out at Tishi. Tishi met the assault with raw brute force, shredding the vines as she closed the distance between them. In a blur, she appeared directly before Rila, her palm held flat just inches from Rila's face. Then, with decisive power, she slammed Rila hard onto the ground. Rila coughed up blood, murmuring in disbelief, "She's only level 1, how is she so fast?" But she quickly recovered, her eyes beginning to glow with renewed power. Just as Rila prepared to launch a counterattack, Tishi swiftly caught her arm. Tishi then spoke, reminding Rila of a core principle within the martial arts department. "There's a teaching," Tishi stated, her eyes glowing with serious determination to protect human life. Tishi then shouted her magic spell, Magic Plant. Yet before the words could fully leave her lips, Rila struck her mana meridians with perfect precision. Rila finally ceased her assault, a wisp of smoke rising from her fist. From the sidelines, Kai murmured, as expected of Lady Tishi. Rila grumbled in pain as Tishi turned and walked away, a final declaration hanging in the air: never trample a martial artist's pride. Rila lay flat on the ground as the referee's voice echoed, announcing Tishi as the winner of the second match. Later, the camera shifted to Rila's hands. Tiny poison needles slipped unnoticed from her unconscious grasp. From a window, a male teacher shouted in outrage. She had something so dangerous hidden. The blue-clad teacher questioned, why was such a thing allowed? The student council head merely brushed off the concern. You're overthinking it. In the end, no one was harmed. Meanwhile, teacher Greg grew increasingly uncomfortable, faced with 2 consecutive losses. He desperately needed a win to secure the tickets to Allen Tower. But a flicker of hope remained. He still had an ace up his sleeve, his gaze falling upon Lucas. Lucas then calmly stepped onto the stage. He faced off against a male magician student. The commentator's voice boomed, announcing the commencement of the third match. The magician vanished in a flash. Our hero, Lucas, quickly sharpened his focus. He perceived the magician moving with incredible speed. The magician left a trail of afterimages as he circled Lucas. Tishi and Kai watched, surprised, wondering how Lucas would respond to such speed. Meanwhile, Lucas quietly deliberated on the optimal amount of power to unleash. Then, with a sudden burst of power from his legs, he dashed forward. He instantly appeared before the magician, having decided on using just 5% of his full strength. The magician recoiled, startled. Impossible, he thought, how did he find me? Yet our hero's attack missed its mark. The magician glanced at Lucas's hand, which had narrowly missed striking near his head. The magician quickly retreated, then launched a magical dagger directly at Lucas. For a fleeting moment, Lucas thought he had merely imagined a terrifying presence. Still unnerved, the magician activated his wand. The dagger, now imbued with magic, returned, grazing our hero's neck. Lucas remained silent, his expression unreadable. The magician leapt into the air, dagger raised, declaring, "You won't withstand my bone-shattering art." He swung his dagger viciously at our hero. To his shock, the magician felt no resistance in his strike. Why did my bone-shattering art have no effect on Lucas? He wondered. Lucas dodged, then countered with a swift movement, stating, "Don't think you're winning without taking any damage." Meanwhile, Kai was sweating, mesmerized by the high-paced battle unfolding before him. The magician slid back towards Lucas, attempting to launch a sneak attack. He launched his dagger directly at Lucas's face. But to his utter surprise, Lucas caught his hand mid-motion, stopping it just short. Now, Lucas declared, looking at him, "It's my turn." Lucas's foot struck the earth with surprising force. A cloud of dust erupted, shrouding both Lucas and the magician in a dense smokescreen, obscuring them from prying eyes. The magician reeled in disbelief, stunned that a martial artist, supposedly a mere level 1, could generate such power from a single kick. Lucas's gaze sharpened, telling the magician that now, with their privacy secured, there was no need to worry about onlookers. He then asked if the magician was ready. Panic flared in the magician's eyes, and he hastily conjured his magic dagger, but before he could even swing it, Lucas moved like a blur, snatching the weapon away and slamming the magician violently to the ground. He then plunged the dagger into the magician's palm. With a crack, the magical blade shattered, dissolving into thin air. A guttural grunt of pain escaped the magician's lips, his palm throbbing and bleeding. Doesn't this scene feel familiar to you? Lucas asked, a chilling edge to his voice. He pressed on, how does it feel to be stabbed by your own weapon, the very one you used against Alto that day? As he spoke, Lucas lunged into the air, raising his leg for a kick, unleashing only 2% of his immense strength. The kick connected, sending the magician flying through the air. It landed perfectly on the magician's face, leaving a clear imprint. The magician coughed blood, his cries echoing in agony. Lucas's eyes glowed crimson as he swiftly closed the distance, his fist poised for another strike. Meanwhile, the magician's mind raced, wondering why his magic wouldn't obey, fearing the last attack had severed his magical meridians. Beyond the swirling smokescreen, the onlookers grew increasingly anxious, utterly unaware of the brutal confrontation unfolding within. Just as Lucas's punch was about to connect with the magician's battered face, the magician screamed, "I surrender," his admission of defeat echoed as the smoke began to clear. Lucas froze, his attack halted, but an undeniable dissatisfaction lingered on his face. From the crowd, Teacher Greg, the magician's own instructor, bellowed, "Why are you giving up? You can easily defeat him with your abilities." He spoke from ignorance, having never witnessed Lucas's true strength. Lucas's teacher, Sugarat, internally scoffed at Greg's ineptitude, unable to perceive the severe state his student, the magician, was truly in. Lucas's classmates from the martial arts department erupted in cheers, praising him for securing their final victory. One student excitedly remarked that perhaps martial artists truly could triumph in duels against mages. Suddenly, Tishi's eyes widened in utter shock. The magician, miraculously holding a dagger once more, lunged at Lucas from behind in a treacherous sneak attack. Before the blow could land, Lucas simply vanished. He reappeared behind the magician, his hands glowing with a soft yellow aura. With 2 fingers, he gripped the magician's neck, employing a strange martial technique. The magician choked out a question, wondering what Lucas had done, feeling as if something vital was draining from his body. With tear-filled eyes, the magician finally succumbed, losing consciousness. He collapsed, passing out cold, his face hitting the ground with a dull thud. Looking down at the fallen figure, Lucas stated that when the magician employed the bone-crushing technique, he should have considered the possibility of being counterattacked by the same method. The referee's voice boomed, announcing that despite the magician's treacherous sneak attack after surrendering, Lucas had decisively defeated his opponent, securing complete victory for the martial arts department. Meanwhile, Lucas's cousin, who had witnessed the technique, was consumed by shock, utterly unable to comprehend what she had seen. The technique resembled meridian severance, an advanced art detailed in ancient texts. Julia, her companion, asked what had happened. Lost in thought, she didn't respond, pondering that no martial artist in the Empire had successfully used such a technique in a century. A single question burned in her mind, "Lucas, who exactly are you?" The martial arts students continued their cheers, showering compliments on the 3 victors as they made their way back to the dormitory. A girl, grinning after watching her teammates' matches, declared that mages weren't so strong after all. From now on, she vowed she'd challenge any mage who dared to look down on her. Tisha urged her to calm down, reminding her that today they had simply performed better than usual. Suddenly, the overconfident girl bumped into a figure that felt as solid as a wall. It was none other than Teacher Sugarat, who, with crossed arms and a stern gaze, chastised them for becoming cocky after a mere minor victory. Frightened, the girl meekly mentioned that they had also won the taming tournament. Teacher Sugarat clarified that their taming victory was merely due to the beasts being under intense stress from the prolonged attacks of the previous students. In other words, it had simply been luck. He then asserted that only the 3 duel matches had been won through genuine skill. Pointing to the winners, he declared that only they possessed true ability, not the entire martial arts department. "So let me ask you," he continued, "do you intend to live your entire lives as mere hangers-on to the strong? Even if you are unreasonably attacked and nearly killed like Collins and Alto were? Are you content to leave revenge and even your own survival to the hands of others?" Before turning away, Teacher Sugarat delivered his final words. "If you truly believe such a way of living is acceptable, you will never become strong." He then walked away, suggesting they would be better off quitting the martial arts department immediately. Stung by the harsh truth, the overconfident girl now declared, "This is truly frustrating. I will definitely get stronger and prove myself." Lucas reflected that his teacher was right. Confidence was important, but it must never overshadow rigorous training. After distancing himself from the students, now in a quiet garden, the teacher was halted by the click of high heels. A woman's voice remarked, "You're really starting to act like a proper homeroom teacher." Teacher Sugarat replied that he simply didn't want them to end up like him, then inquired about her purpose for visiting. The blonde woman, leaning against a tree, handed him an envelope sealed with red wax. The scene then shifted to the hands of the defeated magician, whose magical meridians were now bursting in a grotesque spiderweb pattern. The young man stared at his hand, a pained grumble escaping his lips. The night fell and a horse carriage, driven with urgency, sped towards the magnificent clock tower. A man burst into the building, his fist tightly clenched, his face a mask of fury. He slammed his hand onto a nearby table, demanding to know how a simple freshman duel could have escalated into such a disaster. He roared that his son, Bike, had his magical meridians shattered, forever losing the ability to wield magic. The headmaster listened in stunned silence, uncertain how to address the situation. His face contorted with pure rage, he insisted the headmaster impose severe punishment and disband the martial arts department, holding them accountable. Bike's father's attention suddenly shifted to the shattering sound of a liquor bottle hitting the ground. Teacher Sugarrat entered, calmly stating that the perpetrator certainly deserved punishment. He then revealed that all three of Greg's students had employed the identical magic previously used on Colin and Alto, strongly implicating them as the ones who severely injured his own students. With a grave expression, he urged the headmaster to punish Greg and his students severely, strictly adhering to school regulations. The teacher inwardly lamented, convinced those three foolish students had even resorted to forbidden, illegal arts to overpower their opponents in the duel. Teacher Greg, however, wondered why this accusation was being brought up at such an inconvenient moment. The teacher then loudly questioned Teacher Greg for attempting to change the subject when the focus remained on who was responsible for his student being struck by a forbidden technique. Teacher Sugarrat, maintaining a calm demeanor, explained that the technique's forbidden nature remained unconfirmed, and a meridian crusher was far beyond the capabilities of a rookie martial artist. Bike's father conceded in his thoughts. It was indeed unlikely that Ryan's incompetent son, scorned by the gods, could possibly command an ancient forbidden technique. Teacher Greg then waved a dismissive finger, asserting that an advanced martial artist, however, could certainly wield a forbidden technique. He pointed out that the only advanced martial artist present at the duel site was Teacher Sugarrat himself. Teacher Greg then fixed his gaze on Teacher Sugarrat. He stepped closer, confronting Sugarrat face to face, and lightly tapped his finger on Sugarrat's chest, implying, "Could it be that you are the true culprit?" Sugarrat retorted that if he possessed such a forbidden technique, he would have used it on Teacher Greg long ago. The headmaster interjected, asking how Sugarrat then explained Bike's current devastating condition. Teacher Sugarrat simply suggested it might be Bike's own karma. He recalled a conversation with Lucas, who had denied using forbidden techniques, offering a different theory instead. Lucas had speculated that Bike was illicitly acquiring dirty techniques from the black market, paying enormous sums for them. Lucas had further theorized that perhaps those from the black market grew concerned about their secrets being exposed. Sugarrat finished Lucas's thought, suggesting a powerful figure from the underworld had seized the opportunity of the duel to make their move. Back in the present, the headmaster stroked his chin thoughtfully, deep in contemplation. Bike's father scoffed, refusing to believe such ridiculous rumors could simply dismiss the matter. Teacher Greg agreed, calling it mere speculation. Sugarrat argued it was still more plausible than a beginner martial artist wielding an ancient forbidden technique. Regardless, he stressed, someone capable of such power had indeed been present. Teacher Sugarrat then issued a stern warning to Bike's father, carelessly incurring that person's wrath would lead to grave consequences. The scene then shifted to a different section of the Grand Clock Tower. Inside the colossal library, Director Atani moved along a corridor, a lamp illuminating his path. He finally stopped before a particular book, a triumphant found it, escaping his lips. Holding the book, he observed its dust-free surface, a clear sign of recent use. Placing the lamp on the floor, he began to rapidly flip through the book's pages. His eyes halted on a page depicting the very two-finger claw technique Lucas had employed during the duel. A satisfied grin spread across his face as he murmured, "Just as I thought." He then erupted into a burst of laughter. Meanwhile, the scene transitioned to the hot springs nestled deep within the magical Beast Mountain range. There, our hero poured a potent potion into the spring, thinking it was time to complete Alto and Colin's treatment. Alto and Colin sat, unclad, submerged in the steaming waters of the spring. The potion quickly diffused, transforming the spring into a dazzling blue. Alto let out a pained grunt as his body shimmered with ethereal glitters. The potion began to work its magic on his bandaged wounds. Streams of brilliant blue energy coursed through his muscles, mending them. Colin, too, grumbled in discomfort as the recovery process took hold. Blue energy flowed, repairing his muscles and tendons with the potion's powerful touch. Our hero watched them, silently acknowledging their pain but urging them to endure just a little longer. He clenched his fist, a determined expression on his face. He declared that even martial artists possessed the ability to employ healing techniques, just like mages. Days blurred into one another, and the focus of our tale now settled upon Dak Town, a place dominated by a formidable castle, its high concrete fences reaching toward the sky. Into this imposing town, a horse-drawn carriage clattered, its arrival heralded by the coachman's booming voice. From within, Lucas's father emerged, tenderly helping his wife descend, a smile of anticipation on his face as he spoke of their children whom they would soon embrace. Lucas's mother surveyed the familiar surroundings, her gaze sweeping over the town as she remarked that time seemed to have left this place untouched. Noticing a shadow cross his wife's face, Lucas's father, Holt, gently called out her name, Catherine. Catherine offered a reassuring smile. "Don't worry," she said, "I was merely lost in a memory of the past." As they stood, a lone figure on horseback approached the couple. Lucas's mother's eyes, upon seeing him, welled up with tears of pure joy. The young man dismounted, stepping forward. It was signed Miranda, Catherine's younger brother and the father of Awa. For those who might have forgotten, Awa was Lucas's cousin, a talented young mage who had achieved the second position in the magical department, just behind young Julia. Signed, seeing his sister, offered a heartfelt greeting. A decade earlier, under a sky stained dark crimson, the beast folk tribes had unleashed a devastating assault upon the Empire's borders. This marked the beginning of frequent and brutal conflicts in the region. Humanity, united against this threat, had fought fiercely. For 3 days and 3 nights the battle raged, leaving both sides with heavy casualties. Amidst the chaos, a young Catherine stood, her magic blazing as she fought valiantly against the encroaching beasts. A cunning beast, unnoticed, launched a sneak attack, its claws poised to strike her down. But in a flash, young Knight Commander Holt Ryan intervened, his blade swiftly severing the beast's head, shielding Catherine and enveloping her in his protective embrace. Holt Ryan was a master of martial arts, his strength and skill unmatched. Catherine, on the other hand, commanded the arcane arts, a powerful magician. Having faced the brink of death side by side, an undeniable bond formed between them, blossoming into love. They vowed then and there to spend their lives together as one. Yet Catherine's father, Duke Miranda, vehemently opposed their union. In a heartbreaking decision, Catherine chose her love, severing all ties with the Miranda family. And so, after countless years, these siblings found themselves reunited here, at the Allen Magic Academy. Back in the present, Sign observed how swiftly time had flown. As they walked, their conversation flowed easily. Sign mentioned he'd heard glowing reports of her children's excellence, adding that their father had even remarked on Julia's striking resemblance to Catherine in her youth. Catherine's face lit up in surprise. "So he acknowledges Julia and the others," she mused, a hopeful tremor in her voice. Sign then asked if she would consider returning home, confessing that deep down, their father had always wished to see her. A wave of happiness washed over Catherine at this revelation. Sign let out a soft sigh. "Yes," he clarified, "but only you." Catherine understood immediately. Her father still harbored resentment and would not welcome Holt, her husband. Holt, having overheard their conversation from behind, stepped forward. "Go on ahead," he encouraged her gently. "I need to report to the front lines anyway." Her heart ached for her father to accept Holt as well. She turned to her husband, about to protest. Holt interrupted, his voice firm yet loving. "It's fine, Catherine. I'm just glad they'll let you return home, even if it's alone. I'll come pick you up once the campaign ends." With that, he turned and walked purposefully toward the town gates. Sign watched him go, a silent thought forming in his mind. Holt, swallowing his pride for Catherine's sake, had secretly sought his help to reconcile her with their father. He truly was a good husband. Yet the old duke still couldn't forgive the fact that his noble mage daughter had married a mere martial artist. Sign's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. If only someday. If only someone could emerge to shatter society's entrenched prejudice against martial artists. At that very moment, the scene shifted, finding Lucas in a distant location mid-sneeze. Rubbing his nose, Lucas wondered aloud if he'd caught a cold, despite his rigorous training. He, his sister Julia, and Kai were walking together, Kai laden with food. Julia teasingly remarked on Kai's unusual generosity in buying food for others. Indeed, Kai was burdened with numerous lunch boxes and bags of food. He chuckled, promising Julia that once Alto and the others fully recovered, he'd make sure they treated him in return. Lucas chimed in, finding no fault in Kai's plan. Nearby, magician students murmured amongst themselves. "Look, it's the martial arts department's Luck King," one whispered. "Apparently an assassin attacked Bike right before their duel and he only won by sheer luck." Another voice chimed in, "Blessed with luck 3 times in a row. What's the deal with that?" Julia, who had been silently absorbing their disparaging remarks about her brother, began to stir. She slowly turned toward the gossiping students, a demonic shadow seeming to fall over them. They instantly blanched, falling silent as she demanded to know whose gossip she was hearing. Kai quickly told Lucas he would take the lunch to the dorm, suggesting Lucas go to the cafeteria with Julia first. Lucas readily agreed, leaving Julia behind, still delivering a stern lecture to the now terrified gossips. Later, at a cafeteria table, Julia took a spoonful of food, her face transforming into an expression of pure delight. Lucas, taking a bite from his bread, noticed her hairpin. "Is that new?" he asked. She confirmed it was, explaining that Awa-chan had given it to her as a gift from the Miranda family. As he chewed, Lucas internally mused that it was no surprise the Miranda family sought to reconnect with Julia, hoping to mend family ties. She was, after all, an undeniable genius mage. Pushing some of his own food closer to Julia, he urged her to get along well with Awa for their mother's sake. Julia, hearing mother, remembered, "Speaking of mother, I need to write a letter informing her I've become class representative." From behind, a blue-haired girl, having overheard, stepped forward and warmly congratulated Julia on her new position. Leaning in conspiratorially, the blue-haired girl declared that Julia would undoubtedly become a pillar of the school in the future, assuring her of unwavering support. Just then, a nearby girl abruptly rose from her seat with a loud thud, startling the blue-haired girl. The girl then hurried away, bumping shoulders with another student, who indignantly demanded to know where she was looking. A close-up from behind revealed a black-haired woman with bangs framing her forehead, her teeth clenched in silent fury. In the quiet confines of a teacher's office a short time ago, a tense conversation was unfolding. A student stood stiffly before the desk, listening as her seated teacher delivered a difficult assessment. "Your abilities in mental magic," the teacher began, "are indeed comparable to Julia's. However," she continued, a note of finality in his voice, "Julia surpasses you in every other aspect. That is why I believe she is the more suitable candidate for class representative. Awa, please try to understand." The words hung in the air, but all Awa could do was grit her teeth, a bitter wave of frustration washing over her. Returning to the present, Awa stormed out of the bustling cafeteria. Her fist was clenched so tightly her knuckles were white, and a silent vow echoed in her mind. She would prove through sheer skill that the teacher was merely playing favorites. From her table, Julia watched the hurried exit, a flicker of confusion crossing her face. "She's gone," Julia murmured to her companions. She seemed really angry about something. A small frown creased Julia's brow as she realized something else. "Awa hasn't been eating properly either. I think I'll buy her some lunch and bring it to her." The blue-haired girl beside her, Mina, looked up with curiosity. "Are you too close, Julia?" "Yes, she's my roommate," Julia confirmed with a nod. "And her mental magic is incredible. I saw it for the first time today." Lucas, sitting with them, chimed in, "Mental magic is certainly a rare talent." Mina opened her mouth as if to add something, but then she hesitated, her thought left unspoken. Instead, she lightly tapped a single finger against the tabletop, a faint shimmer of magic gathering at its tip. In response, a translucent blue sigil bloomed on the floor beneath them, expanding upward into a shimmering sphere that enveloped their table. Lucas recognized it instantly. It was a mute spell, a magical barrier designed to prevent any sound from escaping. With her expression turning serious, almost dark, Mina mumbled under her breath, "When they're too smart, they're hard to handle." Her demeanor shifted back to normal just as quickly. "My wind magic is quite interesting," she offered to Julia. "I could teach you if you'd like." But her words were lost on Julia, whose attention was completely captured by the plate of food Lucas was passing to her. Lucas paused, a bite of food halfway to his mouth, and looked directly at Mina. "You didn't cast a soundproofing spell just to make small talk, did you?" Mina adjusted her glasses, a wry thought crossing her mind. Her brother was as sharp as ever. "You're perceptive," she admitted. "Very well, I'll be direct." Her voice lowered slightly. "You're both aware of the magical Beast Mountain range behind the school, I assume. There's been a strange ecological anomaly reported there recently. The population of lower-level magical beasts has dropped drastically. Even the magic crest leopard cubs, which were once common, have vanished without a trace. Then 3 days ago, the Empire's investigation team discovered the lair of a high-level magical beast." The news struck a chord. A silver spoon slipped from Julia's fingers, clattering against her plate. "Don't tell me," she breathed, her voice barely a whisper. "It's L." Lucas let out a sharp, pointed cough, a clear signal for her to say no more. Her eyes widened as she clapped a hand over her mouth, realizing she had spoken her thought aloud. The name meant nothing to Mina. Seizing the moment, Lucas smoothly changed the subject, a casual smile on his face. "So this is about a field mission for us. What's the difficulty level?" Mina pushed her glasses up the bridge of her nose. "It's worth 100 points." A stunned silence fell over the table. The sheer number of points was staggering, leaving both Julia and Lucas in a state of shock. "Julia and I can handle it," Lucas declared with a newfound determination. The world of the school faded, giving way to the opulent halls of the Miranda Manor. A servant moved silently through the grand dining room, carrying a silver tray laden with glasses of deep red wine. One glass was presented to a regally dressed man at the head of the table. This was Soa Miranda, Duke Miranda, the formidable head of the Miranda family. Seated at the long, polished table for their midday meal were the Duke, his son Sine, and his daughter Catherine. As Sine took a bite of roasted meat, his thoughts drifted. Catherine's old room had been perfectly prepared, yet their father insisted she stay in a guest room. The man's stubbornness was truly something to behold. He narrowed his eyes, his gaze sweeping across the table. He noted that his sister hadn't touched a single bite of her food. The oppressive silence hanging over them felt more suited for a funeral than a family lunch. The Duke placed his fork down with a soft click that echoed in the quiet room. Catherine. Startled by the sudden use of her name, she looked up. Regarding Julia, he continued, his tone formal, a girl with the qualities to become a holy archmage. I am willing to recognize her as my granddaughter. Thank you, Father, Catherine said, a hint of hope in her voice. And Lucas is also an excellent martial artist. He scored perfectly. The Duke cut her off flatly. No matter how excellent a martial artist is, it is meaningless. What the Miranda family seeks is only those with the talent to become holy archmages. A frown etched itself onto Catherine's face. She rose from her seat and began to walk away, a familiar resignation settling in her heart. His prejudice against martial artists would never change. As she turned, a servant approached the Duke. The servant presented a sealed letter. Your Grace, new information has arrived from the investigation team in the magical Beast Mountain Range. Catherine and Sine exchanged a startled glance. Why a sudden investigation there, of all places? The Duke broke the seal and read the brief message. A new area has been discovered beneath the Beast's den. The danger level is unknown. Did something happen at the mountain range? Sine asked. Catherine, her mind immediately on her children at Allen Magic Academy, voiced her own fear. Will they be in danger? Duke Miranda rose from his chair, his presence commanding. Allen Magic Academy has its teachers and my own subordinates are stationed there. As long as the students remain within the school grounds, there should be no danger. As he prepared to depart, he turned to Catherine with one final instruction. Wait until this matter is settled before you go to see the children. She hesitated for a moment before acquiescing. Yes, Father, but as he left, a deep and undeniable worry washed over her features. The following day at Allen Magic Academy, a student clerk looked up from the mission board with an apologetic expression. To accept this mission, he explained, you now need a minimum of 5 people, and at least one of them must be a student member. The sudden change hit Mina like a physical blow. What? She shouted, her sharp voice startling several nearby students who turned to stare. She leaned over the desk, her voice dropping to an intense whisper. When I checked yesterday, there was no limit on the number of people. The clerk shifted uncomfortably. I'm sorry, the president changed the mission requirements. There was an anomaly reported in the cave within the mountain range. Mina's hands clenched into fists at her sides as an image of the smug student council president flashed in her mind. That man, she grunted under her breath. He deliberately changed the conditions, betting I couldn't gather 5 people. Standing behind her, Lucas watched the scene unfold with a sense of detached curiosity. Is the student council vice president so isolated that she can't even find 4 others to join her? No wonder she's been so friendly with Julia since the entrance exam, he mused. With a heavy sigh of defeat, Mina turned back to Julia and Lucas. Sorry, she said, her shoulders slumping. It looks like we'll have to give up on this mission. Lucas and Julia, however, exchanged a look of shared determination. Don't worry, they said in near unison, just leave the recruiting to us. A surprising wave of emotion washed over Mina, and she felt tears of gratitude welling in her eyes as she thanked them. They're such good kids, she thought, a pang of guilt striking her. I'm starting to feel bad about planning to use them as pawns. But she instantly pushed the sentimental thought away, regretting the momentary weakness. Just then, a loud voice accompanied by the clanking of metal called out, Senior Mina. A figure in gleaming armor strode toward them. Since my best friend Lucas is going on a field mission, I'll lend you a hand. It was Kai, covered head to toe in full plate armor, a massive shield on his arm and a sword at his hip. It's about time I used the advanced equipment my parents bought me, he thought with a private thrill of excitement. Then a beautiful silver-haired girl peeked out from behind Lucas. Nice to meet you, she said softly. I specialize in water-based healing magic, so I believe I can be of service. Mina mentally ate her words about leaving the recruiting to them. Her heart sank as she looked at the new arrivals. These kids are all freshmen, they'll just be a burden. Lucas leaned over and whispered to Julia. Why did you call Mia-san instead of Awa? Julia's whispered reply was simple. Awa-chan wouldn't have listened to me. A frown creased Mina's brow, but she quickly smoothed it over. Well, whatever, they're just here to make up the numbers anyway. As for the mission itself, Julia and I should be able to handle it. Deciding to set off immediately, she activated her acceleration magic. Even with this, it will take half a day to walk to the magical beast's den, she announced to the newly formed group. So let's hurry. Several hours of brisk walking passed, the terrain growing wilder and more remote. They finally arrived at their destination, the dark maw of the magical beast's den looming before them. Near the entrance, a flag bearing the Miranda family symbol fluttered in the breeze. Looks like the Miranda family's survey team is currently investigating this place, Mina told the group. She knelt down, her fingers brushing against something soft in the dirt. She picked up a vibrant blue feather. There are traces of a battle here. A short distance away, Lucas and Julia shared a private sigh of relief. At least they hadn't stumbled upon El's cave. Suddenly, a primal sense of danger flared through Lucas, sharpening his senses to a razor's edge. His eyes shot upward, spotting a harpy diving from the sky, its claws extended directly for him. "Attacks from above," he yelled, warning the others. Mina reacted in an instant, her magic wand glowing as she began to chant a spell. Wind Blade, a shimmering scythe of compressed air shot from her wand and slammed into the harpy, causing it to spew a mouthful of blood. The force of the spell nearly tore the creature in two. At the same moment, Lucas dodged the attack of a second harpy, casually leaning his head and body aside as its claws swiped through empty air. Another harpy appeared behind Mina, launching a volley of sharp, arrow-like feathers at her back. She sensed the attack and spun, her wand already raised to cast a counter spell. But before she could, Kai lunged between her and the harpy. His massive shield took the full brunt of the attack, the feathers pinging harmlessly off the reinforced steel. He turned his head toward her with a wide, confident grin. "Leave the close combat to us." His boast, however, left him distracted for a crucial second, as another harpy's claws slashed toward his exposed side. Before the talons could connect, Lucas closed the distance in a flash, delivering a powerful upward kick that cleanly severed the creature's feet. Lucas and Kai now stood back to back, a solid core in the swirling chaos. "Stay focused," Lucas commanded, his voice calm and level. From their position in the rear, Mia completed her spell, a shimmering water spirit barrier enveloping the two fighters. "Leave the support to me," she declared confidently. More and more harpies filled the sky, their shrieks echoing off the rocks as they completely surrounded the small group. Mina watched the freshmen working together and felt a strange sense of nostalgia, this feeling of a team coordinating, of everyone having each other's back. It had been a while. She turned to Julia, her voice cutting through the din. "These magical beasts dislike wind and lightning magic." Her eyes widened in sheer disbelief at the sudden, overwhelming surge of magical power that erupted from Julia. Julia raised her staff high, and the very air around her began to thrum and crackle with raw purple lightning. "Barrier magic," she commanded, her voice ringing with power. A complex magical circle flared to life at her feet as a massive, crackling sphere of electrical energy expanded outwards, encasing the entire party. The harpies that swooped into attack were instantly struck by brilliant arcs of lightning that leaped from the barrier's surface. They fell from the sky in smoking heaps, charred black and lifeless. "Whoa," Kai breathed, staring in awe at the display of Julia's power. Mina was utterly speechless, her mind struggling to comprehend such devastating magical force from a first-year student. Julia called out to her, but the vice president was still lost in her thoughts, reevaluating everything she thought she knew. Snapping back to the present, she gave Julia a shaky nod. "Everything is fine." A single bead of sweat traced a path down her cheek as a chilling realization dawned on her. She had completely and utterly underestimated the capabilities of these pawns. With a gentle glow, Mia extended her hand, her healing magic swirling forth to mend Kai's fresh injuries. Kai marveled at the instant restoration, proclaiming her magic, likening her to a goddess herself. A shy flush touched her cheeks as she brushed off his praise as mere exaggeration. Yet secretly, her mind conjured an image of the hero whispering those very words. The imagined scene ignited a brilliant pink explosion within her thoughts, leaving her utterly flustered and overcome with embarrassment. The hero observed her peculiar reaction, a puzzled frown creasing his brow as he tried to decipher the mystery of her sudden mortification. Their journey then led them deeper into the maw of a vast cave, Mina voicing her astonishment at its sheer cavernous scale. The tip of her magic staff pulsed with light, pushing back the oppressive darkness and unveiling the true immensity of the subterranean world before them. Julia, equally impressed, pointed out the subtle signs that hinted at an even grander chamber lying hidden much deeper within the earth. Together, the two girls took the lead, Mina's steadfast light serving as their beacon, guiding the small party through the encroaching gloom. Even Kai gasped in surprise, his gaze sweeping across another immense passage wide enough, he declared, for an entire army to march abreast. The hero, a somber realization dawning upon him, concluded that this cavern was no natural formation, but rather an artificially carved lair, likely a den for subterranean horrors. He issued a grave warning to his companions, urging unwavering vigilance, for with every step deeper into the earth, the perils would only multiply. Suddenly, without so much as a rustle, several grotesque goblins burst from the enveloping shadows, their crude axes glinting menacingly as they lunged at the group. Julia reacted instantly, conjuring a vibrant sphere of purple energy that erupted into a shower of powerful lightning, electrocuting the attacking creatures. Piercing shrieks of agony tore through the cavern as the goblins were struck by the girl's potent magic, their forms seizing before collapsing lifelessly to the cold stone floor. Mina quickly explained that these creatures were blind, relying solely on sound, and for this brief moment their assault had bought them a precious reprieve. Yet a note of caution entered her voice. To engage every beast in battle would surely stretch their arduous journey into an eternity. A confident smirk played on Kai's lips as he declared he possessed an ingenious strategy to tackle their monstrous predicament. A short while later, a plume of smoke began to curl upwards from the depths of the dark cave, precisely where Kai had boldly ventured. Then Kai himself appeared, a blur of motion racing directly towards his companions, every single goblin in the vast cavern now snapping to attention and giving chase. Julia readied her distinctive cat-eared staff, gathering her formidable magical power for a mighty spell, while Mina likewise prepared her own staff, tracing a shimmering circle of blue energy upon the cavern floor. A jolt of pure horror coursed through Kai as he suddenly comprehended the girl's audacious plan. They intended to unleash their attack while he was still utterly enveloped by the monstrous horde. Without hesitation, the two unleashed their synchronized magic, directing a torrent of combined spells towards the overwhelming swarm of creatures within the cavern. Their concentrated magic struck the goblins head-on, culminating in a blinding explosion of brilliant light and raw purple energy. The girls' combined explosion unleashed an immense shock wave, a devastating force that tore through everything caught in its destructive path. The hero and Mia watched the spectacle unfold, the former remarking with an appreciative nod on the sheer efficiency of Kai's daring strategy. Swelling with pride, Kai then launched into a triumphant boast about his brilliant foresight in luring all the enemies into such a convenient, concentrated location. He even went so far as to assert that only a hero adorned with his caliber of top-tier equipment could possibly execute such a daring maneuver. Indeed, thanks to Kai's audacious scheme, the entire monstrous threat was swiftly and effectively eradicated, leaving the path clear. Once again, Mia stepped forward, her gentle magic flowing forth to mend the various scrapes and bruises Kai had inevitably sustained during his dramatic escapade. Pushing deeper into the cavern, they stumbled upon an astonishing sight, a vast treasure trove overflowing with gleaming gold coins, ancient swords, and ornate vases. The hero, observing the girl's growing weariness, sighed softly and suggested they take a much-needed respite. Kai, however, seemed oblivious, his mind already set on confronting even more monsters, making the hero wonder if his companion was deliberately deaf to their pleas. With a defiant stomp of his foot upon the cavern floor, he purposefully drew the attention of unseen creatures lurking in the deeper shadows. A wide grin spread across his face as he announced his success in gathering more monsters, declaring that the subsequent battle was now entirely their responsibility. Yet as he turned to face his companions, a chilling realization struck him. The rest of the group had vanished, leaving him utterly alone amidst the looming creatures. The hero, a wry smirk playing on his lips, remarked that while he generally disliked the notion of sacrificing a teammate, circumstances in this instance left them with delightfully few other choices. Mia, ever the compassionate soul, then promised that should he miraculously survive this predicament, she would most certainly return to extricate him from the monstrous horde. Abruptly, the entire cave began to tremble violently, and the white-haired girl looked up, her eyes wide with alarm at the sudden, ominous rumble. She nervously inquired if the sound had been Kai, but the hero grimly clarified that the tremors originated from the very heart of the monster nest. Mina then thoughtfully asked if they ought to investigate the source of the disturbance, and a silent consensus seemed to ripple through the group. The hero noted with a grimace that the scent of blood was overwhelmingly strong, and a pulsing red aura shimmered ominously from the direction of the tremors. Before they ventured further, the woman extended a healing potion to Julia, urging her to drink it. She explained that while they might not need to actively intervene, it was always prudent to check the situation as a necessary precaution. As they cautiously approached the site, a chilling scene unfolded before them. The lifeless bodies of several knights lay brutally scattered across the cavern floor. A gasp of horror escaped the girls, Mina's voice a whisper as she wondered if the entire investigation team had been utterly annihilated. A profound sense of dread settled over the hero, as a new, more intense tremor began to shake the very foundations of the cavern. The ancient cave walls groaned, beginning to crumble, and a violent shower of rocks rained down from the collapsing ceiling. Without warning, the mangled body of one of the fallen knights was suddenly hurled with tremendous force directly towards the terrified group. Mina watched the horrific spectacle unfold, a stark realization of their dire peril washing over her. From the deepest shadows, a colossal mater lumbered forth, its immense form dwarfing the cavern, an enormous axe clutched in its grasp, and its eyes glowing with a terrifying, malevolent light. A monstrous roar ripped through the air, sharp teeth glinting as the creature lunged towards the petrified students. A chilling thought pierced Mina's mind. Why would a calamity-class beast appear in such an unexpected place? The young woman's composure crumbled into panic, her mind struggling to grasp the unfolding horror of this academy mission. A strange familiarity washed over the protagonist. This formidable presence felt like an echo from a past encounter. With a desperate cry for caution, he thrust his companions out of harm's way, narrowly dodging the monster's devastating blow. The Minotaur swung its colossal axe with bone-jarring force, and the hero steeled himself, preparing to meet the impact head-on. Golden energy surged around his clenched fist, an ethereal glow anticipating the imminent collision with the colossal axe. The axe descended, smashing into an ethereal ice shield that instantly fragmented into countless crystalline shards under the immense pressure. Julia rushed forward, her voice laced with concern, inquiring about their well-being, while the hero turned to Mina, questioning if she had conjured the protective ice. He denied creating the shield, his gaze widening with a mixture of surprise and profound concern at the sight before him. The hero then revealed that the very individual now ensnared in the Minotaur's formidable grasp had been their unexpected savior, the creator of the ice shield. With a terrifying squeeze, the monster tightened its grip on the man, a guttural growl questioning his audacious interference in its violent dominion. A memory resurfaced for the hero. This brave knight had come to their aid, even as his own body bore the marks of grievous wounds. The man's voice tore through the air, a desperate plea for them to alert the Imperial army and summon immediate reinforcements. He cried out that the ancient seal had been shattered, his words met by the creature's menacing, glowing eyes fixed upon him. The Minotaur delivered a devastating punch, the force of the blow shattering the knight's armor and sending fragments scattering. A wicked grin twisted across the monster's face as it chillingly declared its intention to devour them, one by one. Julia's voice, sharp with urgency, pierced the chaos, demanding to know why Mina remained frozen, unmoving amidst the brutal struggle. Mina's healing potion slipped from her numb fingers, her entire being seemingly locked in shock by the monster's sudden, horrifying arrival. A dawning realization washed over Julia. Something was deeply amiss, and she turned to Mina, her face etched with profound confusion. The Minotaur then shifted its massive form, its furious gaze settling with terrifying intensity upon Mina. Before the monster could lash out at Mina, the knight unleashed a torrent of ice magic, retorting that the beast itself was spouting nonsense. A cataclysmic explosion of ice engulfed the Minotaur, giving rise to a dense, swirling cloud of steam. The knight's voice, strained but resolute, urged them to make haste and report the dire events unfolding in this place. Mina and Julia exchanged resolute glances, agreeing to escape the cave and rally aid for the desperate battle. The protagonist offered a whispered apology for his inability to save the knight, vowing to return for retribution. The knight's voice, raw with desperation, implored them to flee the cave with all their might, to save their own lives. A somber smile touched his lips as he embraced his sacrifice, encasing both himself and the Minotaur in a prison of ice, buying precious moments for their escape. He thought to himself that his duty was fulfilled, having offered his life as a shield to protect the students. In a final, valiant act of sacrifice, the knight willed an impenetrable sheath of ice, binding both himself and the Minotaur within its frozen grasp. Yet the monster tore through the ice effortlessly, its furious roar echoing in defiance of the man's desperate, creative assault. The Minotaur opened its cavernous mouth, preparing to consume the brave, sacrificed knight. Abruptly, a bolt of searing purple lightning descended, striking the creature and momentarily halting its monstrous attempt to devour the man. The monster shrieked in agonizing pain from the electrifying impact, and the knight tumbled from its maw, falling heavily to the ground. Julia's voice rang out, proclaiming that he was no mere insect, but a magnificent warrior who had fought with unwavering courage. Mia conjured a gentle water spell, forming a soft cushion that broke the knight's fall and spared him from inevitable destruction. Mina then manifested a potent wind bomb, launching it with force toward the colossal beast. Her voice rose in a frantic yell at the protagonist, demanding an explanation for his reckless charge back into the fray. With unwavering resolve etched upon his face, the hero declared his intention to confront the creature, urging Mina to flee to safety. The woman chided him sharply, vehemently asserting that he stood no chance against a calamity-class monster on his own. Yet the protagonist met her gaze with quiet determination, acknowledging the immense difficulty but affirming his unavoidable need to try. The Minotaur retaliated, wrenching a gargantuan boulder from the earth and flinging it directly towards the vulnerable students. A malevolent glare fixed upon them, the creature bellowed a promise that they would all meet their end within the confines of this desolate cave. The hero commanded her to depart with the others, insisting that she leave the monstrous threat to him alone. Mina then proclaimed, with newfound conviction, that as vice president, the protection of everyone present was her solemn duty. The protagonist mused silently, acknowledging her unexpected courage and finding himself taken aback by her unwavering resolve. The woman then revealed her secret. She had used magic to contact Kai, who was now waiting at the cave's entrance with rescue. The Minotaur unleashed another ferocious roar, gathering its immense power, poised to strike the group with its full, devastating might. The group braced themselves for a coordinated assault, a grim realization settling upon them that victory against such a formidable monster was unattainable. The protagonist turned to Mina, urging her to place her faith in their collective strength as he prepared to face the Minotaur in battle. With a surge of power, he unleashed a searing beam of golden energy from his fist, aiming it directly at the colossal monster. With a determined shout, he surged forward, hands glowing with power, declaring with absolute certainty that they would not fall to a beast such as this. The great Minotaur, a towering figure of primal might, slowly lifted its colossal axe, its blade already glistening darkly with the fresh stain of blood. With a guttural roar, the beast spun its enormous weapon, striking with a force that unleashed a visible shockwave rippling through the air. A chilling blue light pulsed from the monster's single, malevolent eye, an ominous signal that another devastating strike was being prepared. Undaunted, the hero stood firm, facing the behemoth as a warm, golden aura began to emanate from his clenched fist. Gathering every ounce of his formidable strength, he unleashed a mighty punch, a concentrated blow aimed squarely at the monstrous foe. The Minotaur, however, merely fixed him with an icy glare from its luminous eyes, appearing utterly unfazed by the young man's valiant assault. Mina's voice cut through the air, urging the protagonist to maintain his relentless pressure while she orchestrated her next powerful offensive. "Useless insect," the monster sneered, unleashing a colossal punch with all its terrifying might, aiming to crush the defiant warrior. The hero braced himself, ready to absorb the devastating impact, as the colossal creature glared down with an expression of pure, unadulterated hatred. A slight smirk touched the young martial artist's lips as he muttered, "Looks like my sister is finally ready to join the fray." Julia's furious cry echoed through the cavern, "Do not dare bully my brother," as she unleashed her most potent spell. A dazzling cascade of purple lightning erupted, raining down upon the Minotaur and engulfing it in a searing, intense electrocution. Seizing this precious opening, the protagonist moved with blinding speed, delivering a relentless series of rapid blows to the reeling monster. With practiced precision, he struck vital pressure points across the creature's massive form, leaving it momentarily rooted and unable to move. A guttural scream of agony tore from the Minotaur's throat, a testament to the combined onslaught, as it now stood vulnerable and exposed in the fierce battle. "Now, sister, attack!" the hero bellowed, knowing his efforts had successfully frozen the monster's colossal movements. From Julia's outstretched hand, a powerful thunder arrow erupted, streaking towards the immobilized Minotaur. At the same instant, Mina channeled her magic, a vibrant sphere of blue energy materializing within her cupped hands, a potent wind cutter spell taking form. With a unified shout, both girls unleashed their individual attacks, sending them hurtling towards the colossal Minotaur. The lightning and wind spells converged in midair, intertwining and fusing into a singular, far more powerful and devastating assault. The combined force struck the monster head-on, yet with a defiant roar, it managed to parry the immense blow using its giant axe. The creature cursed aloud, spitting a viscous stream of blood, clearly indicating the heavy wounds it had sustained. Its eyes burning with hateful malice, the Minotaur swore an oath to annihilate them all the moment its powerful legs regained their full strength. But Mina, resolute, declared that such a fate would not come to pass and began preparing another formidable magical attack. A massive sphere of glistening water materialized before her, which she then hurled with force towards the injured Minotaur. A torrent of water engulfed the creature, crashing down upon it and thoroughly drenching its massive form. The white-haired girl panted softly, the demanding spell having drained a significant portion of her magical energy. To their dismay, the Minotaur rose once more, proclaiming with a sneer that its legs had already mended, healed by the very magic water meant to hinder it. It snarled, "A little water won't stop me," teeth bared in a display of pure unbridled rage. With a terrifying scream, the creature charged forward, vowing to devour them all alive within the oppressive darkness of the cave. Julia then posed a chilling question, her voice cutting through the tension. What precisely happens when one soaked in water faces a surge of electricity? A cry of incandescent rage escaped her lips as she declared, "You will pay with your life for what you did to those soldiers." A colossal explosion of searing purple lightning and gushing water erupted, completely engulfing the charging Minotaur. The monster shrieked in unbearable agony, convulsing violently as it was subjected to the devastating electrical currents amplified by the combined magic of the two girls. The protagonist observed the scene, a dawning realization upon him. The water had not been meant to harm, but to dramatically amplify the lightning's destructive power. The Minotaur continued to writhe under the electrifying assault, tendrils of smoke beginning to pour from its colossal body. At last, with a thunderous crash, the creature collapsed, utterly defeated by the ingenious and powerful combined attack of the student group. The protagonist offered genuine praise for the girls' brilliant strategy, acknowledging them as truly top-tier students. His hand once again pulsed with a golden glow as he prepared to deliver the definitive final blow to the now vanquished monster. He ascended the massive, fallen form of the Minotaur, declaring his intention to stab it and ensure their hard-won victory was absolute. Mina looked on, a flicker of confusion in her eyes, unable to grasp his meaning after such a prolonged and arduous battle. Suddenly, an ominous, dark red aura erupted with shocking intensity from the very core of the Minotaur's defeated body. The hero reeled back in shock, questioning what strange new horror was unfolding from the seemingly vanquished creature. A strange, crushing pressure enveloped him as the crimson aura struck with the explosive force of a detonation. From the swirling energy, a shadowy, dragon-like form materialized, lashing out at the protagonist with powerful waves of scarlet energy. He was violently thrown backward by the impact of the attack, landing with a jarring thud upon the rough cave floor. A truly terrifying shadowy creature, its eyes burning with an infernal red glow, fully emerged from the husk of the fallen Minotaur. Outside the cave, Kai felt a distinct tremor shake the earth beneath him, a sudden wave of fear washing over him at the unsettling turn of events. He wondered if an earthquake was striking, then a chilling realization dawned. Something far more dangerous and sinister was unfolding within the cavern. With grim determination, the young man swiftly decided to call for immediate reinforcements, murmuring a desperate plea for everyone inside to hold on. Deep within the cave, a monstrous roar ripped through the air, shaking the very stone around them. Crimson and black lightning burst from the creature's massive form, coalescing into a sinister red star symbol that branded itself upon its chest. The transformation was complete. Lucas watched, his jaw slack with a shock that bordered on disbelief at the sudden, terrifying change in his foe. The sheer raw pressure emanating from the beast was enough to send him staggering back, his feet skidding on the damp earth. Now the monster towered before him, its single malevolent red eye burning like a dying star, fixed solely on Lucas. A hot metallic taste filled Lucas's mouth as he realized blood trickled from his ears. Just the shockwave from its roar had wounded him. A chilling truth settled in his mind. This thing had grown exponentially stronger. His gaze flickered, a primal instinct overriding the pain as he desperately sought to confirm the safety of his friends. Through the haze of dust and energy, he saw Mina, her face contorted in strain, having conjured a magic shield just in the nick of time to absorb the monster's initial burst. The effort had utterly drained her, and now, her magical energy spent, she collapsed to the ground. Beside her, Mia lay motionless, and little Julia unconscious and vulnerable. At the sight of his fallen teammates, Lucas's expression hardened, a dark resolve settling over his features. A vibrant yellow energy began to pulse around him, channeling fiercely into his clenched fist, preparing for the desperate attack to come. The monster let out another thunderous roar, a challenge echoing through the cave as it lumbered menacingly towards Lucas. With a burst of incredible force, Lucas launched himself from the ground, blurring through the air. Straight towards the colossal beast. He met the monster's gargantuan fist head-on with his own, a desperate clash of power against immense size. His eyes glowed with an intense yellow light, and with a grim, unwavering expression he declared, "I'll kill you." A flicker of genuine shock crossed the monster's face as it looked down at its own hand. Lucas had, in one devastating blow, severed the palm of its hand. Without a moment's hesitation, Lucas spun, his fist already cocked and ready for a follow-up strike. The monster, reeling, lashed out with its other hand, but Lucas was faster, surgically slicing its fingers into multiple, grotesque pieces. Now both of the monster's mighty hands were gone. Undaunted, the creature adapted, aiming a powerful kick at the hero with its massive leg. Lucas fluidly dodged the attack, executing a nimble somersault in midair before landing gracefully back on his feet. A chilling thought occurred to him. The monster didn't seem to feel any pain at all. He immediately braced himself, a new, unsettling change unfolding right before his eyes. The monster's severed arms began to regenerate, flesh knitting itself back together at an alarming rate. With fully restored limbs, the monster reached for a colossal axe, embedded in the cave floor. It swung the weapon with terrifying force, aiming directly for where Lucas had been standing just moments before. Lucas leaped backward with incredible speed, narrowly escaping the devastating blow. He coughed, a spray of blood escaping his lips, the sheer wind pressure from the monster's attack enough to inflict damage. He cursed inwardly, realizing he had severely underestimated the internal injuries he'd sustained from that initial roar. Not bad at all, the monster rumbled, a sinister approval in its voice. The true blood of a true warrior is starting to stir. With that, it lunged, bringing its giant axe down in a thunderous arc. A colossal explosion erupted precisely where Lucas had stood, tearing through the cave. But Lucas had already sprinted away, narrowly outrunning the impact's blast radius. The monster's menacing gaze tracked Lucas's hasty retreat. It raised its immense axe once more, striking the ground with renewed fury. The impact sent tremors through the cavern, and the ceiling began to violently shake. Jagged cracks spiderwebbed across the stone, and large chunks of the ceiling began to break away and plummet downwards. Lucas's eyes widened, quickly realizing the shower of falling rocks was headed straight for his unconscious teammates. Without a second thought, he sprang into action. He sprinted with desperate urgency towards his vulnerable comrades. He met a giant rock hurtling towards little Julia with a powerful kick. The massive stone shattered into fragments, and Lucas landed back on the ground, a sigh of relief escaping him. He looked at his teammates, a moment of profound relief washing over him, knowing he had arrived just in time. Crushed beneath a new cascade of debris, the monster now knelt, yet from its form emanated a crimson-red aura, far more intense and menacing than before. Its maw opened wide and a searing roar erupted, a concentrated blast of raw power. The devastating attack streaked directly towards Lucas. But Lucas couldn't dodge. His teammates lay vulnerable directly behind him, offering no escape. He met the attack head-on, bracing himself. The monster's roar, he realized, was bouncing off the newly collapsed rock wall, amplifying and strengthening the incoming shockwave. As the furious assault finally subsided, Lucas remained standing, battered but resolute, having successfully shielded his teammates from the monstrous blast. The aftermath was severe. He coughed up a sickening gush of blood, his body pushed past its limits. And in that moment of crippling weakness, the monster saw its chance, swinging its axe in a brutal vertical arc towards Lucas, screaming, "Die!" The monstrous axe, meant to cleave Lucas, suddenly halted mid-swing, frozen in the air as if by an unseen force. A flicker of confusion, then outright shock, registered on the monster's brutish face. In a blink, Lucas had caught the colossal axe blade, halting its deadly descent mere inches from his body. With the monstrous weapon now firmly in his grasp, Lucas cast a quick, reassuring glance towards his allies. A tremor of panic began to ripple through the monster's massive frame. It strained, bellowing with renewed effort, attempting to force the trapped axe forward. With a swift, powerful yank, Lucas tore the axe from the creature's grip, then moved with lightning speed, severing its limbs. "Do you truly believe," Lucas's voice cut through the air, "that you can defeat me?" Before the monster could react, Lucas vanished from his spot, a mere blur in the chaotic scene. In an instant, he reappeared, standing poised behind the towering beast, the giant axe now a formidable extension of his will. His eyes burning with fierce determination, Lucas declared, "As long as breath remains in my body, I will never allow you to lay a single hand on Julia or the others." The monster whirled around, its bulk clumsy but swift, ready to retaliate. Lucas, however, was faster, swinging the axe in a devastating arc straight towards the creature's face. One of its massive horns was cleanly severed, crashing to the ground with a sickening thud as dark blood erupted from the wound on its head. Lucas showed no mercy, his grip on the axe tightened, his resolve unyielding. He swung again, a vicious blow that not only cleaved the monster's remaining horn, but also carved a deep gash across its chest. The creature shrieked, a guttural cry of agony, as torrents of blood gushed forth, painting the ground. The second severed horn tumbled, striking the cavern floor with a heavy impact. Lucas landed lightly, his feet finding purchase amidst the chaos. He turned his head, his gaze locking onto the wounded beast, eyes now ablaze with an intense yellow glow. With a sudden surge, he launched himself forward, delivering a thunderous punch directly into the monster's abdomen. The monster's teeth shattered and flew, its mouth gushing a severe stream of blood. In a desperate move, the monster managed to seize Lucas's leg. It then brutally slammed him against the ground again and again with unrestrained force. With a powerful swing, it hurled Lucas across the cavern, sending him hurtling towards a distant wall. Lucas tumbled violently before crashing into the unyielding stone of the wall. A jolt of sharp pain suddenly coursed through the monster's body. It glanced down at its arm, only to find its hand was no longer there. Lucas slowly rose to his feet. In his grasp, he held the monster's torn-off hand, while his own formidable body was revealed, every ripped muscle and shredded body visible, red veins standing out starkly against his skin. With a grotesque regeneration, the monster's missing limb instantly reformed, whole once more. A primal roar of fury and defiance ripped from its throat. Then, with synchronized ferocity, both combatants lunged, converging in the center of the arena. Their fists met with explosive force, unleashing a colossal shockwave that blasted debris across the entire chamber. They continued their brutal dance, exchanging blows repeatedly in the open air. With each impact, the surroundings buckled and crumbled, bearing witness to the escalating devastation. Through the maelstrom of destruction, Lucas's voice rang out a chilling vow: he would end this creature. Within the monster's widening eyes, one could see the menacing reflection of Lucas, a harbinger of doom. Lucas, now consumed by pure rage, his eyes burning an infernal red. He unleashed a devastating punch into the monster's abdomen, a blow so immense it tore the creature in two. A final, agonized shriek escaped the monster, its eyes bulging with unimaginable torment. Still, Lucas was not finished. He sprang into the air, one leg drawn back and poised for a final strike. Then, with gravity's aid, he brought down a devastating kick onto the monster's head. The sheer force of the impact sent tremors through the entire cave, shaking the very ground of the surrounding area. In the aftermath of the cataclysmic blow, Julia stirred, slowly regaining consciousness. Both Mina and Julia awoke, sitting up dazed. Mina cried out in disbelief that they were still alive, while Julia's eyes frantically scanned for her brother. Then Julia froze, her gaze falling upon the horrific scene before her. Lucas, relentless and unyielding, was still savagely punching the monstrous, broken form beneath him. At last, he ceased his assault, revealing a scene of absolute carnage, a gruesome tapestry of the monster's blood and shredded flesh scattered everywhere. Lucas stood, a solitary figure upon the remains of his foe, taking a deep, ragged breath, his face utterly devoid of emotion. Julia's voice, full of worry, reached out to her brother. Suddenly, the earth beneath them began to tremble. Red lightning sparked and danced around Lucas. His arm pulsed, growing large with a strange, angry red light. This fiery energy quickly spread all over him, and Lucas cried out in terrible pain. At last, the red energy took shape, forming a bull's skull inside a five-pointed star. Meanwhile, far away, the scene changed to a place called the Hall of Wrath, a chamber filled with bubbling lava. Many dark statues stood tall around the edges of this fiery pool. Then, from the burning lava itself, a long arm slowly reached out. A moment later, a terrifying demon rose into the air, its body floating, its back adorned with great bat-like wings. The demon let out a furious roar: "I have returned to this foul world." Then, almost to himself, he growled a name: "Martial God." A narrator's voice revealed this was Valsaba, the demon lord of controlled wrath. He vowed he would tear the martial god into tiny pieces. From the side, a figure sat casually on a thick chain, remarking, "That sounds quite delightful." This was Jelsida, another demon lord. She told Valsaba that his awakening was due to the anger of the key they had picked. A grand throne then appeared, falling gracefully before Valsaba. He sat upon it and turned to Jelsida, asking if this key truly held enough hidden power. Jelsida simply chuckled in reply. She then pointed to a screen that showed Lucas now standing near lava. "Look," she said, "right now he is breaking free from your control." Back with Lucas, the scene shifted. He seemed to have lost his mind, completely out of control. He was punching a defeated monster again and again, even though it lay still on the ground. Julia rushed to her brother, wrapping her arms around him, crying and begging him to stop, to come back to himself. Mia quickly cast a spell, trying to make him stop. But to her surprise, it did nothing. Lucas only gathered more power around his fist. And then he threw a mighty punch. Crying, Julia screamed, "Big brother." Her voice, her words seemed to touch something deep inside him, sounding strangely familiar. He began to awaken, remembering his sister's desperate cry just moments ago. As Lucas's attack landed, a massive explosion rocked the area. Julia and Mia watched, staring into the swirling dust and smoke. As the dust settled, Lucas's back became visible, the strange symbol still upon him. The angry red energy then faded from his arm. Julia slowly, carefully moved closer to him. Lucas turned his head to look at Julia, assuring her he was now himself again. He asked her to step back a little. Then Lucas began a special martial breathing technique. A calm, yellow energy began to flow through his entire body. His eyes shone with a golden light. A powerful burst of energy then shot upwards from him, straight into the sky. This new energy slowly cleared away the red glow and the symbol of wrath from his body. After all that, he fell to his knees, completely drained of energy. Julia quickly knelt beside him. He quickly told her he was all right. Just then, a message came through a device. It was Kai saying, "Lucas, everyone, I've brought help and we're on our way to you." Back in the Hall of Wrath, Jelsida saw Valsaba growing restless. She calmly told him there was no need to hurry, that their key needed more tests. Like, for instance, she added, losing his family. Her gaze then sharpened, fixing coldly on Julia. A chorus of voices echoed, "Lucas, wake up." His eyelids fluttered open, revealing the familiar faces of his father, mother, and Julia. "Where am I?" he mumbled, his voice thick with confusion. But then a sudden, burning rage flared in his eyes. He unleashed a punch, his fist crackling with energy, sending them flying backwards. He clutched his own face, a chilling thought racing through his mind. What's happening to me? My body, it's moving on its own, he whispered, as a heavy darkness swallowed him whole. Just as suddenly, he snapped back to his senses, finding himself lying in a hospital bed. Beside him, Kai groaned, rubbing his nose. "Why did you punch me in your sleep?" Kai, still clutching his reddened nose, added, "I'll let it slide this time since you were half asleep, but don't pretend you don't know." With that, Kai turned and left the room. Left alone, Lucas's mind churned. Why had he dreamed such a terrifying thing? Was it that strange power from the cave somehow messing with him? He remembered the feeling of losing control. It was just like the power that had twisted a dead bandit into a monster, back when he was traveling to the Allen Magic Academy. But back then, he thought, I didn't lose myself completely. This time, though, I truly lost control. My mind must have been swallowed by that power during the fight with the Minotaur. During that fight, he recalled, he had felt nothing but pure, blinding rage. A new thought struck him. Wait, could it be that my anger itself allowed the power to take over my mind? But is it even possible to stay calm when you're in the middle of a battle? He wondered. Perhaps he needed to make sure someone strong enough to stop him was always nearby whenever he expected a fight. He paused, deep in thought. A shadow crossed his face. No, that wouldn't work. He frowned. The only people I can work with on missions or during training are the other students here. Asking them to stop me if I go berserk is far too risky. Then a brilliant idea hit him. That's it, I just need to find a way to stop myself. Meanwhile, outside Lucas's infirmary room, Teacher Sugarrat was strolling down the corridor. He overheard two nurses talking. The patient here is out of danger now, one said. Still, how did an upperclassman get so badly hurt on just a school mission? Teacher Sugarrat took a sip of his liquor, listening intently. The other nurse continued, I heard they were protecting some younger students. Supposedly, the first nurse scoffed, they brought along 2 weaklings from the martial arts department. No wonder they got hurt. Suddenly, a powerful surge of energy erupted from one of the rooms. Teacher Sugarrat's eyes widened in alarm. That aura, is it an advanced martial artist? No, that can't be. The 2 nurses clutched their heads, confused. The windows are closed, so why is there such a strong wind all of a sudden? They wondered aloud. Teacher Sugarrat vanished instantly from his spot. Back in Lucas's infirmary room, he was busily working on something. A small smile played on his lips. He was pleased with what he had done. The clone technique had worked. Standing before him were 3 perfect copies of himself. He stepped closer, carefully examining each clone. He remembered an old book from the library. A clone's strength is only half of the original. If there are 3, the power splits evenly, giving each only 1/6 of my full strength. He flicked his wrist. The clones vanished. They're too weak to truly stop me if I go berserk, he mused, but they could at least buy others time to escape. Just then, he sensed someone coming closer. He paused, then greeted Teacher Sugarrat, who had just entered. Teacher Sugarrat looked at him. Hey Lucas, he began, from your entrance exam to the monster taming tournament to this recent mission, strange things always seem to follow you. I'll be direct with you. What exactly are you, and why did you come to this school? Lucas fell silent, pondering his answer. A heavy silence settled over the room. Lucas broke the quiet. I truly don't understand what you're talking about. I came to Allen Magic School to learn martial arts and grow stronger, nothing else. Without warning, Teacher Sugarrat swung his arm. His target was Lucas's neck. To get stronger, huh? Teacher Sugarrat's voice cut through the air. Then show me your true skills first. Lucas, having blocked the sudden strike, asked, "What do you mean by my true skills?" Teacher Sugarrat is sharp, just as I expected, Lucas thought to himself. Having someone like him around would usually make school life safe, but for me it just makes things harder. Just then someone else entered the room, their voice curious. Who is this man standing with Lucas? Oh, it completely slipped my mind, Teacher Sugarrat realized. Today is a day off so parents can move freely around campus. Lucas's mother and his sister Julia walked in. His mother immediately told the man, "Please step away from my son." Lucas quickly stepped between them. "Mom, this is Teacher Sugarrat from the martial arts department. He was just giving me some advice." "He was saying you shouldn't face a powerful enemy head-on," Lucas added. Teacher Sugarrat, annoyed by this quick excuse, inwardly grumbled. Sounds like he sensed his mother coming. With the misunderstanding cleared, Lucas's mother told her son to relax since it was a day off. "Don't you agree, Teacher Sugarrat?" she asked. "In other words, she's telling me to leave," he thought, sighing inwardly. Teacher Sugarrat sighed. "Well, the kid hasn't caused any real trouble yet, and as long as I'm his homeroom teacher, I'll make sure he doesn't." He then said his goodbyes and left. Lucas's mother set down her bags. "Don't make your teacher angry with your selfish demands, son," she chided him. She sat down, explaining, "I've been staying at the Miranda estate until things settled. I wanted to see you both as soon as I could." Hearing this, Julia's eyes welled up with tears. "Oh, I wish I could have seen you much sooner," she cried. She began to cry, waving her hands like a small child. Her mother looked at Lucas, asking him to do something, but he just threw up his hands. "I can't do anything," he said. Then Lucas asked, "Isn't father with you?" His mother explained, "The situation at the front lines isn't looking good. After he brought me to the Miranda estate, he had to leave right away." "So the Miranda family accepts mother, but they still won't acknowledge father," Lucas thought, a frown on his face. What a stubborn family of mages. Then Lucas's mother told him that his father had sent a gift for him to celebrate his first-place achievement in the entrance exam. She pulled out a beautiful, embroidered wooden box. Lucas's eyes widened when he saw the gift. Inside was the treasured sword, an heirloom passed down through the Ryan family. It had been damaged in a battle against the Beastman army decades ago and was too hard to fully fix, making it not very practical for fighting anymore. Still, it was a precious family treasure. She handed the sword to Lucas. "Your father is placing all his hopes on you," she said softly. Lucas carefully pulled the sword from its sheath. He gazed at its beauty. "I will do my very best not to disappoint father's expectations." Nearby, Julia began to feel a pang of jealousy. Their mother noticed Julia's pouting face. She burst out laughing. Julia, confused, asked, "Why are both of you smiling?" Lucas gently ruffled his sister's hair. "Mom loves you the most," he assured her. "I have a gift for you too," their mother said, handing Julia some beast pills. "And I baked some special sweets just for you, Julia." Julia jumped in the air with delight. "I love you, mother," she exclaimed. She then happily began to eat the sweets. Suddenly, her mother remembered something important. "Julia, please give this to Jeremy later." Julia looked puzzled. "What is it?" she asked. "Father prepared some beast pills as a gift for Jeremy too," her mother explained. "Since Jessica didn't come this time, I brought them for him instead." Julia took the box. "I don't really like Jeremy," she admitted, "but I'll still give it to him." Her mother smiled, praising her for being a good girl. The scene then shifted to the boys' dormitory. There Julia and Jeremy were together. Other students watched, wondering why Julia, who had taken first place in the elite course, was talking to Jeremy. Then someone pointed out, "He's Julia's brother." Everyone was amazed that the famous Julia was Jeremy's sister. One classmate clapped Jeremy on the shoulder. "Make sure to invite Julia on a mission sometime," he suggested with a grin. Jeremy slapped his hand away. He summoned vines that sprang up around his classmates, warning them back off. Jeremy then stormed inside the dormitory, leaving his classmates to wonder what was wrong with him. Inside, energy pulsed from his body. He thought bitterly, "My father and mother have never even come to see me once." In his hand were the pills Julia had given him. He remembered the treasured sword, given to Lucas just for taking first place in an exam. "Why does a loser like him get all the love from everyone?" he fumed. In a surge of anger, he vowed, "Lucas, I'm going to take back everything that should have been mine." Their happy times together flew by, and soon, their mother had to return to the Miranda estate. But she promised she would be staying in Dak Town for a little while longer. So even though Lucas and Julia couldn't see her every day, just knowing she was close by filled them with happiness. As for Mina, who was still recovering from her serious injuries, Lucas brewed a special new elixir just for her. They presented the elixir as a gift from the Miranda family, a clever story that stopped anyone from questioning its miraculous healing powers. In what felt like a moment, half a month went by, and a celebratory mood filled the air at Allen Tower. Kai and his teammates stood in awe, mesmerized by the magnificent sight of Allen Tower before them. Watching from the side, Lucas couldn't help but chuckle. "Why are you all acting so impressed?" he teased. "You've seen this tower every single day since we started school." Teacher Sugarat clapped his hands, calling for their attention. "Settle down, everyone," he said sternly. "You're not here to play. Consider this tour part of your official training." He then directed them to their assigned seats, and the students quietly obeyed. Nearby, students from the magic department started whispering amongst themselves. "Look," one muttered, "the whole martial arts department showed up. They're chasing dreams they can't possibly reach," another sneered. "Barely any of them have real talent." Kai's hands clenched into fists, his face flushing with anger. "There they go again," he growled, looking down on us. Just as he was about to charge forward, Lucas placed a calm but firm hand on his shoulder, holding him back. It was just as they had predicted. The moment the event began, the other students immediately started to single out those from the martial arts department. In their eyes, we were just the lucky ones who had somehow managed to snag 20 entry slots. It was so bad that even the first-year teachers from the mage classes had complained to the principal, arguing that the Empire has no need for martial artists. They shamelessly demanded that our hard-earned spots be given to their own students instead. Yet Teacher Sugarat didn't seem the least bit worried. Did he have that much faith in the principal and the school's fairness? Finally, they arrived at their designated area and settled into their seats. Teacher Sugarat once again called for silence. "Listen up," he explained. "Every year the third-year students enter Allen Tower first. They are here to set an example for all of you." Right on cue, a powerful voice boomed through the hall. "Third-year students, please prepare to enter." A young man with a determined look tightened his grip on his magic staff. "3 years," he whispered to himself, "since I first came to Allen Magic School. And I finally get to step inside Allen Tower." The student, it turned out, was Jeremy. His teammate standing nearby rolled his eyes, thinking, "You're only just getting in now because this is the first time you've ever ranked in the top 100. Suddenly, a familiar voice called out Jeremy's name from the crowd of younger students. Jeremy and his friends turned to see who it was. "Oh look," his teammate smirked, "it's your genius little sister." It was Julia, waving and shouting, "Do your best, big brother." "Hey, your sister is cheering for you," his teammate nudged him. "You'd better not disappoint her." Julia saw he didn't even crack a smile. "HMPH. I only did it because Mom told me to anyway," she thought with a shrug. "Oh well," she decided, "at least I did what I was asked." One of Jeremy's companions looked toward the tower anxiously. "I hope we get lucky and teleport somewhere close to each other inside." But Jeremy wasn't listening. He gritted his teeth, his eyes finding Lucas in the crowd. "Just you watch, Lucas," he vowed silently. "Inside Allen Tower, I will finally prove I am better than you." With that silent promise made, he and his team turned and began their march toward the towering gates. The moment they stepped inside, a mysterious voice echoed around them, instructing, "Place your magic staff before you and close your eyes." Jeremy froze for a second. The voice was familiar, tickling the edge of his memory, but he couldn't quite place it. Far away in a hidden room, Director Atani watched the students' progress on a glowing screen. Stroking his long beard, a slow smile spread across his face. "So," he murmured, "it finally begins." He closed his eyes, and a powerful energy began to build around him. When he opened them again, they were shining with a brilliant golden light. He thrust his hands forward, pouring all of that immense power into the strange device before him. Ancient gears began to shift and turn, and a crystal orb at the center of the machine flared with blinding light. At that exact moment, the entirety of Allen Tower erupted, releasing a massive wave of pure energy. Down below, Lucas gasped, his eyes wide with shock. He could feel it clearly, an unbelievably powerful fighting spirit. "There's a martial artist at this school," he realized, "someone even stronger than Teacher Sugarat." Suddenly, it all made sense. This was why Teacher Sugarat was so confident they wouldn't lose their spots. It was because the very person who held the key to opening Allen Tower was the most powerful martial artist of all. Sometime before the trials at the Allen Magic Tower were to begin, two men sat talking over tea in a quiet corner of a garden. The principal sighed, his voice troubled. "Recently," he said, "more and more people are demanding that we revoke the entry slots for the martial arts department." He asked, "Tell me more about the anomaly from last time." Director Atani slammed his teacup on the table, the sharp clatter echoing in the quiet garden. "I already told you," he snapped. "No anomaly occurred that would cause the school any losses." As he stood to leave, he offered a final condition. "Keep everything as it is for now. If you do that, I'll open the Allen Tower as scheduled." The principal watched as Director Atani vanished through a shimmering magic portal, a difficult realization dawning on him. So if they didn't give the martial arts department a chance, then nobody would get to enter the Allen Tower at all. Atani, the principal, murmured to the empty air, "You've given me quite the difficult problem." Back in the present, the day of the trials had finally arrived inside the Allen Tower. Jeremy stepped through the entrance, his body dematerializing into light. He looked at his hands, feeling the familiar weight of his staff. It seems like only my consciousness entered this space, he thought, but it feels no different from reality. Even my magic staff is exactly the same one I always use. Nearby, Jeremy overheard two students chatting. "Surprising, isn't it, since it's your first time," one said. "The most amazing thing about the Allen Tower is just how realistic it is." After their brief exchange, they hurried off to find their own teammates. From a distance, another figure was watching the scene unfold. As Lucas focused his mind, a soft glow emanated from his eyes. "Interesting," he thought to himself. "So even from out here, if I sense the mental energy waves, I can see what the students inside are doing." Teacher Sugarat, observing from nearby, noticed Lucas's focus on the new student. "Poor Jeremy," he thought with a sigh, getting disliked right from the start. He then turned his attention to the crowd of students waiting outside. "Anyone with enough ability can watch what's happening inside by sensing the mental energy," he announced. "But before that, let me give you a quick explanation. When the trial begins, you'll be teleported to a random location within the tower. You can decide for yourself whether to go solo or form a team. If you form a team, the maximum is 3 people. For those who want to reach the upper floors, I highly recommend you work in groups as much as possible." Hearing this, Kai immediately leaned over to Lucas and whispered, "We can form teams. Of course you're teaming up with me, right, Lucas?" Lucas dismissed the idea without a second thought. "Based on the tournament rankings, we'll probably end up in different groups," he stated plainly. Alto and Dizio nodded in agreement, leaving Kai to mutter, "So I'm just too good, that's why I'm ending up alone." Teacher Sugarat saw the intense look on Lucas's face and knew he was already observing the events inside the tower. A girl named Linda spoke up, confused. "But I thought only 5 students from the elite course could do that, was I wrong?" Just then the great doors of the tower began to move. Lucas pointed towards it. "Look," he said, "someone's coming out already." "They're a third year," Kai commented, but even so that was pretty fast. The phantom enemies inside the Allen Tower changed their strength based on the student's ability, Teacher Sugarat explained. "Every year there are students who underestimate that fact and get knocked out right away." Lucas tuned out the conversation, deciding to shift his focus and see how Jeremy was doing. Inside the central part of the tower, Jeremy and his teammates were already making their way up the stairs to the second floor. He considered himself incredibly lucky to have found his teammates so quickly on the first floor. Soon they pushed open the doors and reached the second floor. They found themselves in a vast, rocky cavern, with sharp crimson shards hanging down from the ceiling like teeth. Almost immediately, Jeremy felt a prickling on his neck, the distinct feeling that he was being watched. Without warning, 2 monstrous blue creatures lunged at them from the shadows, and Jeremy instantly reacted, casting his plant magic to defend the group. Thick vines shot up from the ground, wrapping around the monsters and binding them helplessly in the air. Taking the opportunity, his teammate unleashed a swirling wave of sand. The sand slammed into the creatures, obliterating them instantly. A notification appeared before them: 2 elite skeleton warriors defeated, points +10. "That was close," Jeremy's teammate panted. "The second floor is as dangerous as the rumors say. Let's hurry on while we still have magic power and stamina." They all nodded in agreement. They moved with renewed speed, quickly reaching the central area of the second floor. There, Jeremy single-handedly defeated a Beastman scout, earning another 5 points for the team. His teammate took down a skeleton warrior with a blast of water magic for 5 points, and then an elite skeleton warrior for 10 more. In the middle of the fight, a lone skeleton crept up silently behind the team's water mage. But before it could strike, their third teammate launched a sand attack, destroying the skeleton and saving his friend. With that final enemy defeated, they had cleared the way to the third floor, and a congratulatory message from the system flashed before them. Sometime later, a tired but triumphant Jeremy and his teammates walked out of the Allen Tower's entrance. They chattered excitedly amongst themselves, amazed that they had lasted so much longer than their previous attempt. One of them turned to Jeremy. "Why are you so quiet all of a sudden? Aren't you happy?" "Of course I'm happy," Jeremy replied with a genuine smile. But as he looked back at the tower, he thought to himself, "So father fights enemies like these all the time. I feel like I just got one step closer to him."